Well, it depends on which sage. If you smoke the right sages you're supposed to smoke. So white sage you smudge with, desert sage you smoke, popping sage looks pretty. All three are on Antelope Island.
Wait. Okay, wait. White sage we smoke.
No, white sage is the smudging one. So usually, like when you get like a bundle of like sage to smudge.
Sorry, yeah, I had the act of smudging, but it's like smoke.
Yeah, smoke. Yeah, so smoke comes out. Yeah. So the big bundles of white sage, which look lime green when they're alive, but when they dry, they're like white.
And then desert sage is
what you smoke.
How do we identify the difference? Like,
so it's darker green.
So wait, the ones that like I keep buying at like the store and things like that are that type of sage. They're not smudging sticks.
Well, probably are like they probably are white sage. They just may not be labeled as white sage.
So wait, then how do I get the smoking sage?
You just have to pick it yourself. Like I don't know if the apothecary on 6 Main might sell it. I don't think Sacred Energy has it.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
Huh? What is it used for?
So it was part of like one of the herbs that they would use. So like each direction out of the 4 directions has an herb that goes with it.
Oh, okay.
And so each culture also had a different thing with it. What is the quote unquote start of Ragnarok? Like let's go right into like that first point.
The first side of Ragnarok is there are 2 wolves that are the children of Fenris. And they are usually seen chasing the sun and moon chariots, Sol and Mani, who pull the sun and the moon across the sky day and nighttime. And they are always chased by these 2 wolves. These 2 wolves are fed by a giant with the bones of the corrupt and the greedy, until these wolves get so big they finally overtake the sun and the moon and devour them.
I would like to point something out about that. The wolves' hunger is said to be near insatiable. The fact that there is such corruption on Earth is what allows them the strength to catch up to the sun.
Okay.
That they were finally satiated by the amount of just criminals. I guess we could say.
Explains the bones.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fed by the bones of the greedy. So many more bones now than ever before. They would grow enormous, and they get stronger by the tenacity and by the struggle of having to chase those 2 chariots and fail. They get stronger. They get bigger every new day. So once you get to that end point, they get so big so fast that the only warning these 2 charioteers get is they look behind them, and they're always used to looking back and seeing one of those wolves. Looks behind them and sees it as a massive darkness coming up behind it. And that's when the smile leaves the face of the sun, and now fear is left. And when the sun itself shows fear, the rest of the realms begin to understand, oh no, this is it. Then they both get eaten, and
gotcha.
It begins.
So where did the wolves come from?
The children of Fenris, which is the great wolf.
Okay, and so Fenris is the great wolf. Is there like a story like where Fenris comes from, or appears, or origin?
Is Fenris the child of Loki, or is that Garm?
There's several. There's a family of wolves that all descend from that same source. And so the wolves, each one has their own symbol, because one of them, Fenris, is considered the mighty pure wolf, right? And so it's considered death, inevitable death, as well as the fear of that inevitable death.
Okay.
And so that symbol of that wolf, I would like you to focus on just the idea of beast with teeth in the darkness, snapping and snarling at you, because even Fenris gets so big that the space between Earth and the moon becomes the space between its upper and lower jaw.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so it gets so big that when even Odin looks down, all he sees is just teeth and darkness, and
just the maw.
It's so big, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And so,
his children are Garm and the 2 wolves that they're not given names, but the 2 wolves that chase Mani and Sol.
Okay, gotcha. And then just for kicks and giggles, just Fenris before Ragnarok, or if I'm getting ahead of myself, it's okay for this current moment. Does Fenris have any cool stories or connections with like Odin or Thor, like run-ins, or like with any other gods? Maybe even like Siegfried or anyone like that.
He's had several run-ins. Like for example, in Thor's youth, he had to wrestle with the wolf once, with his bare hands. That was more of a, oh crap, what are you? Ran into it, dealt with it, left it, and went, wow, that was a big dog. And then he explained to him, that was Fenris. That thing is meant to fight your dad.
Okay.
You can fight that and survive. You're really somebody, aren't you? And so it's like when he's going fishing with the giant and he hooks the Midgard serpent, same thing. He fights the serpent there, but it's not Ragnarok yet, and so he can't do anything other than smack the serpent with his hammer. The line snaps, making it so his blow to the serpent isn't a lethal blow, but it does bruise the serpent. So the serpent basically vows that if before it dies, it's going to kill Thor. Okay. And that's how that animosity starts.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. You got something for us?
Found their names: Hati, Skol, and Monogarm. Those are the 3 children of the wolf Fenris.
Fenris, okay.
And they pursue Sol and Mani, yeah.
And then which 2 go after the sun?
Hati and Skol.
Hati and Skol. Okay,
and so Monogarm is Garm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Garm comes out of I'll say the underworld, but
Okay.
invades with Hel,
Okay.
which is the actual female goddess and a child of Loki, sister to Jormungandr as well.
Okay.
That's a very interesting concept too, because this is also something we should discuss as well with Ragnarok. Is there are 9 realms effectively in the Norse multiverse? We'll just use that modern term. Of those 9 realms, you can see them as physical places in the world as well as internal places inside your soul.
Yeah.
And so when you look at places like Yggdrasil, you go to specific Valhalla or Vanaheim or Hell. Let's talk about Hell again. That is both considered a place and a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered also a state of being in terms of when you say he is dead.
Yeah.
You would say that he's gone to hell.
Okay.
But when you say that that's his grave, you would point at the hole in the ground and say that's also his hell.
Okay.
Now, is Hel the goddess? Doesn't she rule over? Isn't it Muspelheim, or is that the Flame realm?
That's the Flame realm. She rules her own realm named Hell. So
it is named
it's
Hell.
both a noun and a person and a state of
I
things.
can't remember that one. That one always confuses me because it's specifically a land of the dead, but she claims those not died in battle. Everybody else goes to her, the sick and the needy.
She actually,
the
she actually takes the lost, the unchosen, the forsaken, but she also takes over the sinners too. And so those who are basically go into the afterlife as bad people, instead of going to burn in hell, they go to her afterlife where she made her kingdom, where she has a special, you could say, punishment for everyone involved. And the thing with that is when Ragnarok comes and she assembles her army is assembled of 2 forces. One is the forces of all those forsaken that have basically taken her as their divine maiden.
Okay.
Because all of the other gods forsook them, or they feel that they forsook all the other gods.
Gotcha.
So they choose her as their divine goddess and they serve her. The other group are basically those who are corrupt and were never going to choose good. They're basically enslaved so that they're given to Loki and his army.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so just to back up, so like for the uninitiated and so forth, like let's go through maybe like the 9 realms, like in a not super long but short version of like what each realm is and like the god or goddess of it, and then also like what aspect that's connected within us, and then I'll probably make some correlations with Kabbalah and assemblage points and so forth. But yeah, so what are the nine realms? Either start at the top or the bottom, or I don't know if they work as top or bottoms.
Technically there is a layout, a bottom to top layout. If you look at the tree, you start at the roots. The roots are rooted in the body of Ymir, and then from the roots you have the base of the tree that goes all the way up. What would you call that? That center column of the tree, and then all the branches.
That's Midgard, technically.
Yep,
that's us.
So us, Earth, is Midgard, located there. Muspelheim, which is the flaming underworld.
Okay.
That is where Surtur lives, the great flaming giant. If you've seen the Thor Ragnarok movie, he's literally the big flaming giant who destroys everything.
Gotcha.
And so then you have... Are you pulling up a list? Or
I am looking for one. I know I have it in here somewhere.
Okay.
But keep going.
Book I know of that I have that has a literal list of them in the table of contents section. I happen to leave at home.
No, you're totally good. Just go from what
the top, or from the bottom to the top. From there you have the frozen realm, which
would this be the 3rd realm or the 4th realm? So the roots.
So if we're going from the bottom, let's say Hell is the first realm, since that's the very most bottom, right?
Okay.
And so that one is Hell's underworld. Instead of being flaming, it's darkness, but she has an actual palace underworld down there.
Okay.
There are farms, all kinds of stuff. So thing to consider is it is an afterlife, but all of these afterlives, all of these other realms are physical places where you're still living. You're just living another life after you've died from this life. So you still have to eat, you still have to sleep, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's certain magics, like if you die in the battlefield outside of Valhalla, you'll be resurrected inside Valhalla to do it again. And other places where you're just like Vanaheim, which is elf paradise, we'll call it, where you just rest, pleasure, pleasant, peace, all that stuff, where some warriors go.
So we're
going out of order here.
Yeah. So no, you're totally good. No, I mean comparison is good. We'll get to Vanaheim. So with Hell, there's the actual goddess of Hell, but also like what would Hell represent within us? Like would that be like the shame, the guilt, the depression?
It would definitely be those shadow parts of us. If you look at Hell, her symbology is one side of her is beautiful, one side of her is weeping though. The other side of her is cruel and is made ugly. She wasn't born ugly.
Okay.
There's a story that when she was sent down to her kingdom, that Odin specifically hobbled her leg so as to make her unable to climb the stairwell back out of Hell, so that she could never come back out.
Interesting.
And that in turn, because she's considered not only the daughter of Loki, but because of that, she's a royal Asgardian. She was exiled from all of that for nothing that she did, no fault of her own, but simply because of who she was. Literally, you're the daughter of Loki, screw you.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
One half of her body is colored blue, and the other half is colored just human.
Human. Okay. And so within us, it's kind of like that shadow aspect. 'Cause I mean,
It's
even,
blue like a corpse as
yeah,
well.
even like the shadow sides of us isn't always like negative. I wouldn't want to say that like when someone's in depression or in their shame or guilt, that isn't necessarily shadow as much as that's like toxicity. But the way to remove that toxicity is to go into the shadow and look at it and ask that harder question of like, what are you? Why are you this way? You know, so that might be that aspect with her too. It's like, you know, she's punished just for being the daughter of Loki. Which I have a question about Loki in a second, but like also the
He's fun.
that concept of like you're punished for that, so it's like this unjustfulness, but then she still has her duty, she still has some impeccable way to hold the realm. So like just like that, you know, shame and guilt and depression don't serve us, but they serve enough to refine or know that they are a lower vibration.
They're
Okay.
the flame of the crucible that purifies.
Okay.
And that's the thing to consider to consider about the being in hell as a soul is not permanent in the sense of, oh, you're being punished or because you were bad you're here forever. The idea is until you, so let me approach it like this, because there's work to be done, to quote Gurdjieff. There is work that you have to do in the infernal realms, and this would be considered that in the Viking, in the Norwegian sense, where you're going to hell, which is after death or is death, so that you can work out through memory all the parts of your life that you struggle with. And that is your battle now. Your eternal battle is to work that out until you have victory. That victory is, I've finally overcome all of these lifelong struggles. And my god is hell was the only way I could do that. And so that's why these souls will suddenly start worshiping and swearing their fealty to the hell goddess and join her army to then march out of hell together.
Gotcha.
She's
Okay.
actually riding the great dog Garm out of hell. That's how she overcomes having a hobbled leg and gets up the stairwell and out of a crevice as she rides that great dog, knowing that dog represents chaos itself and fear.
Gotcha. Which chaos serves, and it's an aspect of it. Like I mean, like there's this whole thing. Like I mean, it's not a perfect representation of this, but like it's into like in some of the shamanic realms, and like when I've done like certain ceremonies, like just an example of like chaos. Like chaos is an entity; it's a real energy that's there. But there was this time, like with the medicine, that I'm in Peru and there's mosquitoes and I'm annoyed by the mosquitoes. And so I finally, kind of like just take it to the medicine. And I'm like, all right, what is this all about? It's like the mosquito spirit kind of shows up and here's mosquito. And essentially I'm like, so like, what's your whole purpose? And there's like a little lesson in there, but like the short version was like, it cracks the joke about being nature's tax. Like I'm just nature's tax, I take a little blood from here, take a little blood from there. You guys squish us, we kill, there's this balance there, but also this kind of thing too of like, I also move antibodies around. So sometimes like when I'm moving around, like actually helps a species. And then I'm food for these other smaller things that need to eat it. And then they serve a role into crops and so forth. So this with, I was like, okay, I get all that. I get it. But what about like malaria in West Nile? Like, that's just not cool. That's like something you guys have. Like, I'm just not down with that. Can you explain that to me? And it just goes, oh, you got to go talk to West Nile and malaria about that. Realizing that's not me. That's a separate thing from the mosquito. I go look and it's just massive. These two energies are just massive chaos. And like, not like dark chaos of like, oh, hello, darkness, my old friend, the end of the spectrum that holds all darkness. And I can like respect, but like, I don't want to give you a hug because, you don't want a hug. But there was this different kind of chaos, like just raw chaos, like full destructive chaos. I was like, nope, not talking to that. Got no desire to, don't need to understand that. Check mark, got it. West Nile, malaria. You guys don't enjoy it either any way that we don't enjoy it either. You guys aren't happy about it either, mosquitoes. Like, so you're not spreading it all maliciously, like. And so then it just became like, okay, I'm not cool with getting bit, but also at the same time, you're not malicious. You're just an energy trying to survive. And then it led me to understand like there are energies and entities in life that are just trying to survive. There are entities that feed off of depression. There's entities that feed off of guilt. And so if you continue to show up in a guilt and you're in that pendulum of guilt all the time, these thought forms or energy forms come around and they hang out feeding on that guilt. And they might prop a couple thoughts to poke the guilt, but they're still just like, it's almost like being in a river and you're looking at the river and a duck comes by and then the next duck comes by and it looks up and he goes, guilt. And you just feel guilt all of a sudden, like, but it's going to keep going down the river. But you could take that and be like, I am guilty now because the duck said I was guilty.
I mean, the duck is
that's
pure. Like,
yeah, but that's essentially the thing that the thought form is doing. It's just going to poke that memory that goes guilt, and it could go on down the river, and you can, just pendulum dodge it like a martial artist, be Neo in the Matrix, or it could be like, oh, now it hit me, and now I am, and then you feed the guilt pendulum, and then the thought form gets fed, and the thought form is not evil; it's just surviving. Just like the mosquito. So I know it's like, that's kind of like what makes me think of like hell and chaos of like, this is just her thing. Like, this is what chaos is. and hell has its purpose, and it has its purpose within us. Like it's we have to understand chaos, really.
It's an antithesis to its opposites, to the light, basically, darkness and light.
Yeah, but it's not evil, it's not malicious, it's just surviving.
If you look at least the way I look at and the way I understand the different gods, as well as their antithesis, those villains of the Norse mythology, especially going into Ragnarok, I feel that that's exactly, you have a god representing this divine force, purpose, meaning in the cosmos, and then the thing that he's up against in Ragnarok, they literally pair off in duel. All these different gods pair off in duel with their nemesis, and what their nemesis represents, like we mentioned, Garm, is fear as well as chaos, and so it's he's a dual aspect, but they're also together in the same of when they present themselves. And so it's that idea of, well, I have a plan. This is the way it's supposed to go. I know I'm going to win this, and then Garm shows up and it's like, well, fear of, can you really succeed? What happens if you don't? Versus the anxiety of, I'm not so sure you think you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then like the person will unravel themselves on those two things, and it's just it doesn't end. And it's considered a wild, rabid dog that cannot be controlled. And so the one that he pairs off against is Tyr, which is the god of victory and courage. Garm does.
Yes.
And so then the question becomes, well, then what does Tyr represent? Well, like I said, it's courage and victory, specifically the courageous person who then gains the deserving victory. Well, that antithesis is fear and chaos. It makes perfect sense that is the one thing, the two things that could undo Tyr would be fear and chaos.
Gotcha. Okay. So tying this back to the realms for a moment. So after hell, so I get Tyr's courageous and so forth, and I feel like he's gonna come in a little bit here later and play an aspect here. Quick thing about Loki. Does Loki have multiple partners, or just one partner, or is he/she his own partner?
So Loki has two wives.
Okay.
The first one I don't really remember too well. The second one I believe is Angrboda.
Yeah,
right.
Giantess.
Okay.
Giantess. She's also technically a goddess of loyalty and truthfulness.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Gotcha. And then those are his two wives.
Yes, he has two wives. And now I don't remember if all three of the kids though were from the second wife or the first wife.
Okay, so they're not from separate wives. They're from usually like they're from the same.
I think
No, they're from different, because at one point he disguises himself as another animal to have sex with another divine animal to create one of his offspring.
that's how we got Jormungandr.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so
Gotcha.
he does play that game too, and so he has offspring from beasts as well as with Asgardians.
Okay.
And giants.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna put a little pin in Loki because I want to come down, but that's like a whole rabbit hole of its own. Yeah. So and not to go too far off, because we are in Ragnarok, and I want to come back to the wolves, but first the 9 realms, just so we all understand the realms, so we reference them. They're good and cool, but they're fun. So what's the second realm after?
Second hell. So we have hell, and then we have Muspelheim, which is the flaming realm of Sutur. That's what we would see as a Christian flaming hell.
The actual sulfurous smoking pit.
That's where you would have evil beasts and demons that are bent on destruction. All exist there.
So this is where actual malice beings would be.
Yep, malice and destruction. Yep.
Okay.
Something interesting about this, real quick too. It is actually stated in one of the books that I've read. Now, I'm quoting here from the Myths of Norsemen. Great book by H.A. Gruber. But in that one, he does actually mention that Muspelheim does actually have 9 realms to it as well.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It itself goes 9.
Yeah, I would assume it would all fractal in. Which I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. Just assume that it all does. But I mean, like so many things do. Like the chakra system has chakras within itself. And it goes down and so forth. And every the Kabbalah exists, but then also you have the Kabbalah within yourself. But then probably each Sephiot has its own 10 Sephiot within, and
all the way up, all the way down.
So each realm has 9 realms within it. And so not to go too far into the fractals of that, but just the second realm, this is where malicious beings are, which would also be, I guess, like our aspect of like, I don't know how malice really serves us as humans, but I know it's an aspect of us. But this might be where that side of, things that sometimes people can fall into those paradigms of more of that way. Or
I wouldn't necessarily call him malice though either, because he is flame. How do I put this? He's flaming destruction.
He's vengeance, and so it's inevitable. It has to become. Yes. It has to happen to make things right again. But that doesn't mean the person receiving that flaming sword likes it.
Exactly. He's the flame that burns down the forest so that it can regrow anew.
Exactly. Okay, gotcha. So it's not necessarily malice. This is more destruction. This is more.
He's the one who actually burns Yggdrasil to the ground. The whole thing, except for one realm.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So I understand that more, because I was like, it is interesting because like there's malice beings in the existence, and I don't understand that aspect. But
I
like
would
bringing this
say-
into what it does serve is like, yeah, destruction serves. There is a, you know, like I said, the fire has to burn to be in, like, actually sometimes the soil that has been burnt in is better for certain growth, and there's a refresh of nitrogen in the soil. And
he causes that. He
yeah,
causes that refresh.
gosh,
There
okay, so
is
he's
an actual Maleficent being.
yeah,
I believe is that Ninhursag?
but that's but is that part of the Nine Realms?
Ninhursag is the one who chews on the roots of the Nine Realms.
Okay, so he'd be like below.
He is below in the roots and constantly trying to eat through the tree.
Okay, so like what I wouldn't even put him to 0. He's
He is
realm negative one.
aspect.
Yeah, -1.
He's-
So
he's-
yeah, so
It's
okay.
his own meaning. So what something to consider here that I should have mentioned with hell is each of these realms is to be considered having a in light as well as an in shadow state.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the reason why Ragnarok is occurring is because all the realms below the very top one have gone into shadow.
Okay.
And so hell is supposed to be cruelty and sorrow. Okay. So you can see how they're together because one creates the other, which leads to the other, and it's a never-ending cycle. Cruelty and sorrow. You move up, and so in shadow, that's what that's supposed to be. If you're supposed to be learning anything from that, there is wisdom there, and it's you did wrong, think about it, fix it, and then don't do that again, and then like try to fix what you did, try to undo the damage.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing of hell is you're learning there. That's its redemptive, it's a redemptive mechanism. You move up to Muspelheim, it's also has its own light and shadow. It's supposed to destroy as a recreation, as a renewal, but out of a drive for revenge, Surtur has gone completely into shadow, and so it's now just a sheer hateful revenging destruction.
Gotcha. So
That's why the
it's
burning is so total. Is it's not a light burn. It's a he wants to completely leave nothing but ash.
gotcha. So and that's the shadow side is like where the fire has actually become just destroyed to ash. It's no longer because you can take vengeance and you can put it into your fire, like into your fuel. You can take vengeance,
Exactly.
put it into your solar plexus, and like it will fuel you to get things done, but not be driven by vengeance. But you can be fueled by it. You know, it's kind of this aspect. Like Alex Mosey has a great quote of like when he's like taking on someone to like be on their team or like someone he's going to get into business with. He's like, I don't care what is in your fire as long as you have a fire, as long as you have fuel for your fire, and you know how to use it appropriately. And he means like, you know, so you're not just like, well, here's a nice fire, let's throw a huge like 5-gallon gas tank in there and stand 1 foot away. Like, you know, not that kind of fuel at the fire. He means like, as long as you understand, like, yep, I hate my parents, I'm going to prove them wrong, put it in here, and I'm going to be an extremely successful, well-driven business person that can be coachable and teachable. Great. That's the properties of fire. So that's what it sounds like. So it sounds like the second realm, that's more of like the proper, you know, you can use that energy destructively, properly, and not quite into creation yet, but, and then when it becomes shadow, it becomes this destroyer. I'm going to kill everything. I'm going to blow. This would be like Beerus and Dragon Ball Z. Instead of just destroying select planets, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to destroy every planet.
So there's actually a thing with that too, is at the very end, the giants and the dwarves are both taken to their own separate kind of Valhallas, like their own heavens, specifically heavens.
Okay.
They have no hell.
Interesting.
And that is because they are not full beings as in the humans and the gods were. The humans and the gods had choice. These types of beings didn't. They were the forces of nature, technically. That's why they, in the end of Ragnarok, they are judged to still be innocent and pure.
That's the giants and
The dwarves.
dwarfs.
It's
Interesting.
the humans and the gods that have a choice in between both light and dark in the world.
Okay. Interesting.
It's like the others are more living in their nature, where we, because we have that divine
We can
spark.
question.
Yeah, we are a notch above, but also much more is required.
Yeah, you go out to a forest and get attacked by a wolf. Are you going to be mad at the wolf for being a wolf in
Yeah.
the wolf's home?
Well, and in that level too, it's like I see how some people like they put that like lower than where we are because we have divine spark, but it's like it makes me think more of like 5th dimensional beings and 6th dimensional beings that are actually like they're acting in a way that is in accordance with flow. And they've surrendered their own emotional and moral judgments, attachments to it, of the fact that it's like, it is what it is. And I may not be, quote unquote, like personally okay with it, but I get the whole grand flow. So it's actually like true impeccability. It's that full. So like this, I'm almost hearing is like the dwarfs and giants, at least in the Norse mythology, they fall in that category of impeccability. They were impeccably doing what they were meant to be doing in their nature. They're in their flow.
Their energy has a certain denseness to
Yeah.
it, where it doesn't nearly change as much as the humans or the gods do.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
Loki was on the light side and then fell of darkness and things like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
They are just always what they are.
Gotcha. And similar to like the tree that's growing and it's going to produce apples and so forth. The tree doesn't go, oh, I hope these apples produce and somebody eats them. And I hope that this apple falls and makes a new seed and becomes a new tree. And it's just like me. It doesn't think any of that. It's just, I am the tree, I grow, and I don't produce one apple. I produce hundreds of them, and I drop them as I please. And if they become something else, great. If they don't, I'm gonna produce more apples later. Regardless, like this is just what I do because I am an apple tree and I am awesome. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I am a giant. I am awesome. I am a dwarf. I am.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Short people have hope.
Have hope. Okay. So moving into realm 3, like what's the third realm? Is that Midgard, or are we not to Midgard yet? What's realm 3?
Let's see. Technically, Midgard is its realm. I'm trying to remember if you have the dark elf, as we call them, realm. That's either, I believe it is above that one, but it is a darker realm because it is.
Is it on the shadow side, or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that Alfheim?
Okay, so
Alfheim, ALF.
ALF.
So yeah, so what I'm saying is like you have the tree, and like you could fold it in half, and you have the negative one. So it almost sounds like the dark realm would be the dark elf. If I understand, it would be like the -3, but it's.
No, they're all still positive. All the 9 realms exist in the branches. The roots is where Nidhrsag is.
Okay, so the dark elf is part of the positive realms. It's part of.
There's like 3 of them down there.
Okay, gotcha. So the dark elf realm, that's before Midgard?
We say dark elf, but as far as I can tell, it's not that they're in darkness. They're simply.
It's because the elf. There's technically 2 elf realms now because the original elf realm fell in shadow because what the elves represent is permanence. But what's the shadow of permanence? On the one side, that means I can maintain something's level of purity for so long. The shadow side of that is I'm forcing that stasis on things.
Okay.
And so Alfheim, I believe, is also known as Niflheim because it has fallen into shadow out of their own making.
Okay, gotcha.
That represents how you can have an entire kingdom or realm or group of people living in a misery of their own making, and they might not even they might not even be willing to change it. They might be literally happy in their mess because that's all they know now. And if you were to come and try and show them something else, they tell you something like, "Oh, that's too rich for my blood," or "I could never live that way," or "I'm not meant to live that way."
Their bed is the way they like it.
Exactly.
They made it.
You can't upset their course. They are set in there. And I'm sure we've all run into those people. That's what that represents, is that entire, even the gods, even the beings in the cosmos, as well as the parts of inside of us, can reach that state of a self-imposed stasis where the thing that we're supposed to be doing is now we're doing it so improperly as our curse.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've become a doing, not a being anymore.
Exactly.
You're a doing.
I'm a meditator.
Yeah, you become a human doing instead of a human being. Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, that's that aspect of that, and that's that'd be kind of like the third realm there, I guess. Yeah, and so just like a little thing on elves, like. So, like, is it because most of the culture of like when we are like looking at like the Vikings and the Norsemen, it's their current social culture that they don't really talk about elves very much or lean into that? Like, I know they talk about giants and dwarves, and I know the only references I can remember anyone like talking about elves is like a slight like here and there, but almost referencing like something so beautiful, like, oh, look at this beautiful mountain landscape. It's just the way the elves made it, kind of reference. Like not quite that wording, but like that almost like. Yeah. Anything beautiful gets referenced to the elves, but it's not a main focus. It seems in most like Norse mythology books I read or like stories we see.
They're not big up there. They're more. I think Gaelic honestly has a lot more on the elves.
Yeah, okay, so that's going more into like that Norse side of Gaelic. So the Gaelic is the.
Whereas as for the Nordic, like the ones that we're talking about, most of them they don't really interact with the elves as far as I can really.
Well, there's also, from what I've seen, there's also a difference in time as well. So we talked before about how there may have been a Ragnarok already. That some of these stories seem to have been after. Well, I was reading through the Germanic and Gaelic Norse mythologies. I found the story of, I can't remember his name, but if anybody has seen Fate Stay Night, it's the Fate series. It's the Lancer character with the spear, with the 2 lances. One gold, one red. So interesting connection is he gets that lance, those 2 lances from Wotan, the character, his original story. Can't remember his name right now, but he's a Gaelic hero. He gets the 2 spears from Wodan, which is Odin. It's just the other culture's name for him. Odin only has 1 spear, and that's his divine spear, Gungnir. The issue is Gungnir gets snapped in half by Siegfried. So now there's 2. The stump at the bottom with its base, its counterweight, which is still a point you can stab with. It's just not the best one. It's meant to pin things down.
Yeah.
The other one is the front of Gungnir, which you can never avoid that point once it's been cast. Which now you have that one hero, and his tail has 2 spears. They're both now lances, but they both retain the 2 abilities that Gungnir has one had.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And Odin gave it to him. And so there's a now when you go back into Ragnarok, Odin does not have his spear. That's his best weapon. He doesn't have a spear, and his sword he already gave away, and it was shattered in another battle with his own spear. So like he has nothing. He's going in with just nothing.
But he's not the only one too. In Ragnarok, there's a lot that just end up without their divine weapons. What was it? Frey ends up without his like mighty
Without his-
sword. He ends
yeah.
up with just a deer antler.
Oh, awesome.
Just the hordes of hell coming at him and goes, okay.
Tyr ends up fighting Garm with only one arm because
Okay.
he gave up his arm in some other duel, some other
Okay.
thing. He had to literally give up his arm.
Gotcha.
So he's got one arm.
All of the Norse gods have one hand tied behind their back at this point.
Okay.
Or it's just gone.
Thor goes into this battle drunk.
Gotcha.
So not a good way to start a fight against the Great
Okay.
Serpent.
So I mean, we'll come back to Ragnarok, not to
So
get
what I was-
too far deep into the story. So like we're bouncing all around, which is exactly like the kind of thing that I was like, I can.
I guess let me finish my point when I
Yeah.
brought that part up.
Yeah.
The two spears is I believe that is more evidence that there was a whole culture going on up to a certain point of an apocalypse, and then suddenly the rest of the cultures afterwards. In their last conversation, I mentioned that you can even track the horn symbology to where it was just a symbol versus they were actually wearing these things, and it goes back to Bronze Age. It goes back to when they had a whole civilization on Doggerland, as opposed to when the water swallowed it all, and that's where you have another flood, right?
Yeah.
I think that most of our stories are really like poetic stories. And these were all put together in about the 13th century by a guy named Snorri and one of his other colleagues, and most of them were by Snorri.
Mm-hmm.
The 13th century, there is Christian influence, but Snorri's is very, very. It's like his Christian influence was that he came up in a monastery, but he did not, as far as we can tell, put a lot of just transplanted in there. It's just the way the wording and the way the story is prose is Christianic, but all of the verbatim is still very Nordic. So by going by what we see is there is this whole idea that this is the Nordic culture, this is our stories, this is the etymology, and it's all very solid. And then he himself even says that when you move into the Celtic and Gaelic cultures, all of theirs, it updates and it changes, and they're all talking about all of their gods themselves as those are interactions we had with them from before some kind of cataclysm. They were all in kingdoms that we can no longer talk to because they don't exist anymore. And those are the Celtic Gaelic cultures, as opposed to those really far northern cultures like the Danes and the.
Gotcha. So that's where the division, kind of with the elves, came from. Is that it shifted there? These are now realms we can no longer touch.
And when you go back to about the 10th century, there was a mini ice age that swept down across Europe.
Yeah.
It was so fierce that there was 3 inches of snow recorded in Cairo, Egypt. It was so ridiculously cold. And if you can imagine what the famine is like from that, apparently that winter was so long, it wiped out their entire spring and summer season. It just dragged on the whole next year. And so that's an ice age, that's a famine. All those people that are living in scarcity, that have cultures based on war and taking from each other because of that scarcity, imagine how that just sent them over the edge.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, I see that. And that might also be like the time when, like, you know, because Norway comes out of the ground, not out of the ground, out of the ocean, but there's a time where it goes back halfway under, and so like that might be that tie in there of like, oh, okay, like that mini ice age, when that melts, Norway goes half underwater again. Part of Finland goes underwater again.
It could have been localized too, because we're looking at the entire culture having been affected by this.
Which would be that whole northern from Greenland all the way over to the Wales. You know that.
It makes sense that they have a story of an apocalypse that happened once and probably going to happen again, because that's the part of their geological memory that they have left, is that crap with the landmass is coming.
And it cycles. Okay.
Well, that's also the thing too. You mentioned with the waves. Jormungandr thrashing during his fight with Thor causes the ocean to come up about halfway up the mountains.
Interesting.
Whole
Okay,
places are wiped out.
And so it's on the waters or on the beaches during the time on the world of Midgard all get drowned, because that's one of the first signs of it, is the light and the sun and the moon get eaten, and then the waters start thrashing because Jormungandr is getting excited because he knows.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I should say, like, you know, all of this, like with the gods, it's like all the stories, they come from like them trying to explain, you know, the physical things that happen, but then also the energies of these gods. Like we've said, like these are real beings and vibrations that exist, and then also these vibrations exist within us. Like they're part of the stories, they're part of the archetypes. Like all these stories of like Greek mythology and Norse mythology, and a lot of the archetypes, and even like the stories we see in Hollywood, like the hero's journey that repeats over and over again, just different versions of it. These are all collective archetypes that are real vibrations, that are reflections of who we are as a society, of who we are as individuals. We keep choosing these archetypes. That's why they keep showing up.
That's why you have local gods and goddesses depending on what type of creatures you're dealing with.
Exactly. And like how these gods have like rippled into like newer ways of different people we might view, you know, and so forth. And even like as we're seeing now, like, there's people now that like we deem as really amazing, like people that like we would call like great speakers. You know, like we talk about like Alan Watts or Terence McKenna, Ram Dass, but then of like today's age, like you have like some other people that are starting to like step into that, you know, but like the people that like Ram Dass and like Terence McKenna and Alan Watts are quoting are like the people that are like they're almost the ripple effect of that people. You know, like Ram Dass is quoting Madarashi, who is his guru, but it's like he's really just the ripple effect of the next Madarashi. Like
and we now cite Ram Dass.
And we now cite Ram Dass, and they'll come and now like Duncan Trussell, even though he's a comedian, when he does get serious, like he drops some good wisdom. Alex Gray drops some good wisdom, like yeah, Cartol. Like those are the next kind of like this next little generation of it. Like you're seeing a few more people like pop up into those realms, you know, and you're having people write really amazing books and like. And that's what's cool about the internet now. Like you can have people that have millions of followers that don't know it. So, you know, you have people like Rob Dial and Aubrey Marcus that like they're set and they have a great guru teaching and they have their own thing, but there's still going to be people that will find somebody else and will never know them and will get that same kind of knowledge and growth. So it's kind of thing with the Norse mythology, like why all these things repeat. It's like for the northern people, this is what led them to be who they became later, and these stories and like the way the government happened, or not government, the government, the Dane government controlling the weather, the way the weather played out. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll come back into the next realm here and wrap out the 9 realms real fast so we can get back to Ragnarök and the wolves, is if you notice like cultures around the world, like the way they view God or gods has to do with the way like the sun or the weather has shown up for them. Like you look at a lot of the Abrahamic faiths, the sun, like if you don't obey, like if you don't live a certain way, like you don't get enough like water and you don't go inside when the sun goes like it is at the hottest point of the day, like you can kill, like the sun can kill you in the Middle East very fastly. It's very strict. Here are these 10 commandments, here are these religions that are very strict, like you must be this way. God is a wrathful God. He does love you, but if you don't keep his way, he'll slap the shit out of you. And then you come over to like, you know, South America, I know like a lot of those traditions, the way they view God, oh, God is this loving mother, and she's like, look at all this like abundance she gives us, and she's cooling in nature, and like she can be fierce, and like the weather can knock you out, and like rainy season's no joke, like people drown, and like don't mess with jaguars and snakes, but like look at all the fruit we have, look at like we're never gonna starve, God loves us. And so you look at the Nordic and like this is kind of that same, like all these gods come from, this is how it happened. It's cold, it's icy, they need to pillage, they need to raise, they're hunters, you know, there's this.
Well, they need conflict almost as well. In order to get to Valhalla, you have to die in battle.
Yeah.
And to prove yourself worthy of manhood.
And the way they're living is like it's a harsh environment. Like you've got to step up. Like there's not a lot of, I'm not saying South America is cushy by any means at all, because they have their heat and they have their things. But at the same time, like there's a thing about, you know, kids born in California that have never had to shovel snow versus kids that grew up shoveling snow.
Yes,
like look at how they do in later in life, and like guarantee you the ones that had to shovel snow, like they get shit done in life.
There's a certain amount of geographical determinism that exists in religion.
Yeah.
Like certain things work better in certain climates. It's very, in the Abrahamic religion, for example, is you don't poo in camp because it offends God. Now we just know that it's germs and things like that, but it's survival books for living is what a lot of religions are. They're responses to great cataclysms and people banding together and finding a way to make it work.
Yes,
that's why why the Abrahamic religions banned pork eating, and it's what were they using pigs for back then? That was waste disposal.
You don't eat that.
You don't eat that meat. No, you don't.
You will get very sick.
And you can see how if they meet another civilization who is eating other pigs, they're probably immediately horrified at that civilization because they understand this not on a germ level but on a spiritual level. So they're probably like, you Babylonians are all full of demons.
And the Babylonians probably weren't using pigs for the same method. They weren't using it for disposal. Yeah, gotcha.
I think they actually had street level
gutters.
Yeah, that's the word. So that it would just all run down.
Yep. They were the one.
No concept of feeding it to your pigs.
Yeah, we have an actual way of like the earth will take this. Yeah. Oh, hello, Douglas. Are you opening doors on your own now? Anaya.
By the wolves. Just talking about
I know where we're at. Yeah, bad episode. So coming.
We screwed ourselves around.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're on to the fourth realm. So fourth realm.
Technically, I think those were the light elves, by the way. The ones that screwed themselves. The ones that screwed themselves were the light elves. The dark elves are actually the good elves, or the in proper place elves.
So the dark elves are the natural flow elves.
The natural flow. The light elves were the ones that, if I remember this correctly, they took the light of reincarnation and used it to juice themselves up.
And
so they're out of their sequencing.
Yeah, gotcha.
And the ones that aren't stuck in that realm, they left, and we're going to jump up. They left up to Folkvanger, which is the palace inside I got Freya lives there.
Inside Vanaheim?
Vanaheim. My brain was merging two different words into one, and I wasn't getting Vanaheim out of it. But in Vanaheim is the palace of Folkvanger, and Vanaheim is paradise. That's elf paradise. That's where the elves went. Those elves became the Valkyries. Those Valkyries, the whole thing about them, but they serve there, and they are the warrior race. That's the key difference there. That's where the good elves went. That's why they're not in that other realm with the dark elves.
Gotcha.
With the stasis elves anymore, because they went up to that paradise realm to then, because their thing was permanence, there is light side permanence.
Okay.
So they're up there maintaining paradise forever, but they're also all of the warriors from that other race too. Warriors in light. And that's why they serve as Valkyries. When they're not serving as Valkyries, they actually travel over to Valhalla and they pour the mead and party alongside all the soldiers when they're not killing each other.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Now that's specific though too. There's a specific time that occurs.
Okay.
Because there was a point where Odin's realm and that realm were at war with each other. They were both light side realms at war. This is where he gets his queen Frigg. She's the leader of the Vanir. He's the leader of the Aesir.
Okay. So,
and to end the war between them and unite in light, they married together.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's circle. Oh, go for it.
The thing to remember about the Valkyries real fast too is that Valkyries appear, they come to Earth in the forms of, when they're not doing the official Valkyrie thing, and they're coming like as a glorious Valkyrie, they travel between realms in the form of swans. And so there's an interesting little anecdote there where there have been many, including one of the sons of Odin, who have captured Valkyries by waiting for them to come down. They take off their cloaks and they start just pretending to be humans doing the human thing. They run up and they steal their swan cloak. And now you have power with Valkyrie. There were three of these Norwegians that decided to, they were Asgardians, they decided to force these three to marry them. Of the three, only one of them actually, the wife of Voland, the Valkyrie who married Voland, she actually fell in love with him, gave him a ring made of Rhine metal, again, the Rheingold, and gave it to him. He was the smith of the three, and he became the great smith of Asgard.
Okay.
He is known for all kinds of magical stuff, but every 9 days, just like when they take off their clothes, is the same thing with werewolves. They have 9 days that they can just do whatever they want before they have to put their swan clothes back on, or else they might lose the ability to become Valkyries and go back to Folkvanger. It's like a breaking of their office.
Yeah. So if they get their swan clothes stolen, they have 9 days to get it back, or else they don't get to be Valkyries anymore. Just like werewolves, if they take off their fur, they have 9 days, and if somebody burns their fur within those 9 days, the curse is broken.
Exactly. The Valkyries,
or doesn't get returned to them in 9 days too.
Exactly. The Valkyries, there's another caveat to this given to them by their goddess Freya, where there's an additional 9-year cycle, where after 9 years, on the anniversary of when their cloak was stolen and now they're stuck and the spell was broken, they have one more chance to find their cloak again and get out of there and go back to Volkvanger. And they're brought in as like, oh, you're back just like you never left.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
These three wives, these three Valkyries, they manage to, on the anniversary, one of them finds their cloak, goes over, grabs the other two, they all get all their cloaks back, and they all run away. Except for Voland's wife leaves him another ring. And he goes, oh, what can that mean? Maybe it means that she'll come back to me one day. So every anniversary of when they left, every 9 years, he forges an additional 700 copies of that Rhine metal ring that she left for him in hopes that she'll return. One day, he left his home to go on a journey, and he came back and he found that of all of the rings, his door was left wide open. One singular ring was missing of all of them, and it happened to be the original Rhine metal ring. So he didn't take that as, oh, a thief knew which one. No, he took it as only she could have known which one was the real one because she made it and gave it to me.
Yeah.
So that's proof that she's waiting for me somewhere. Grabs all of his stuff and goes on a journey. Eventually, at the end of his journey, he is allowed into Valhalla, where she is already waiting for him in dress, with meat in hand, being like, there you are, welcome, I've been setting the table for you. And then they're allowed to live together again.
Nice. There. Okay. Beautiful. That's awesome.
He makes
so which that's cool.
Go after your woman.
Go after your woman. Right. So which realm are Valkyries from?
Valkyries, they now live in Vanaheim with Freya at Folkvanger.
Okay. So we'll get there. I mean, that's like at the top of the tree, and that's I was like, if it was just a couple realms, that maybe we'd jump, but
so that's a small jump. So moving up to there's the dwarf realm, which is considered mostly, I would say cave-like, but it's not that way. It's like how you look a mountainous region with caves in it, where there's trees. It's still beautiful.
So this is like the fourth realm. This is okay.
It's they would say that it's the most like Earth or Midgard, if not for the fact that there's no actual plane to go and hang out at. There's no world like we have where it's open space. It's just the mountains and the caves.
Okay, gotcha. So this is also kind of a little bit of like where possible, Hollow Earth people are and so forth. Yeah, okay.
Because one of these three dwarves, the two that went off searching for their wives that didn't find them, they wandered forever into the dark. But supposedly there are now tunnels throughout that dwarf realm throughout all the other realms of Midgard because they eventually dug them all out, looking for their wives. And so those tunnels are accessed throughout the Thor sagas and through the Volund sagas. They use those tunnels to get around and to escape bad guys, and even the gods
Yeah.
that are like Loki uses those tunnels to get around where even Odin can't see. Those tunnels are it's funny how they mention specifically in the Thor movies that, oh, Loki can avoid Odin's sight and he can get in and out of Asgard. They don't say that it's those damn tunnels that the dwarves are using, and they never connect any of those stories. They just go,
But
oh,
that's-
nice little thing.
But that's how.
But that's how, is there's all these tunnels by these guys who are just trying to find their wives. And their wives apparently did not want to be found.
Okay, alrighty.
They never found them. Those Valkyries were gone.
Gotcha. All right. So that's the dwarf realm. That's the fourth realm. And I mean, what kind of like? I mean, what's the general vibration of the dwarves? We kind of talked about a little bit. Like they're impeccable. They're doing their thing. But what is their duty? Their calling?
Dwarves represent the ego itself, and so they live out the desires of the ego.
Okay.
And so you'll have dwarves that'll be good and bad, and you'll never find a dwarf that has been evil solid his whole life. You have a dwarf that in this story he did an evil thing, but there's no solidly evil, forever born and bred evil.
Okay.
Dwarf.
Even the
They're
dwarf
just acting
that's
out their egos.
gotcha. Even the dwarf that's like trying to like waiting for the ring to get the ring at the end. Like he's not really an evil dwarf.
He's not an evil dwarf. He's embodied by desire, and so
Okay.
he's just desire is driving him to keep on continuing trying to get that ring. What does he want to do? The ring. He's not trying to conquer the world. He's not trying to kill anybody. He's not trying to do anything malicious or evil with the ring. He just wants to have it because he made the ring. It's his. It's the first ring in his collection, and so that dwarf didn't forge anything else. That was literally the one thing in his story he did. And so there's that. The ego is attached as hell to that because that's his one thing. And to a craftsman, what you create, you put your heart and soul into, and then that is like a child to you as you put it out into the world forever. And so
Gotcha.
you could say he wants his child back. It goes back to Lord of the Rings calling the ring the precious.
Yeah,
There's nothing more precious to the person who wants their ring back. The same thing with the dwarves is when they have an egoic desire or an egoic attachment to something, they'll move heaven and earth to get to it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And with the dwarfs, and so that's like, you know, egoic attachment. That's like the unhealthy ego. You know, like there's a desire to get things done. Like, I mean, we talked about it a little bit with like money too. Like, there's always those things that people will find a way to afford. Like your current vices, your little things, like you'll find a way to avoid, you know, get them. And it's one of those things that's like super interesting. And like, I'll try not to put anyone down on this, but if this does happen to be you in life, it might be worth looking at your life a little bit for this. But if you're one of those people that's like, oh, like, we like to go out and we enjoy nice things and so forth, and like this is my lifestyle, but then your job doesn't match that lifestyle, and so you're always in debt with credit card or always having to like go to mommy and daddy and borrow money or borrow money from this friend, and then okay, we're breaking even, but hey, guess what, this month we're still going to go on a trip to Colorado and we're still going to go down to Branson, Missouri. Yeah, you know, we're still going to go to this concert. You know, we're still going to spend this $200 to $300 extra that we borrowed from somebody else to bring our credit cards back to zero. Sorry, Mike. But then we're gonna, you know, spend that money again, borrow that money again, pay our credit cards off, but still, hey, we that concert we wanted to go to. Yeah, so I'm saying like that ego, like you will find a way to make it happen, and it's crazy how tenacious humans can be, like us people can be, at destructive pendulums in our life, destructive vortexes. Like we can be so creative to make it happen, like, but at the same time, can't be as creative to like go create a new thing, like create something that happens, like make something that works for you. Oh, I don't have X, I want X, how can I get X? You know, like as an example, and like I have no problem, like, you know, if one of my friends needed help and they came and asked for money, like I have no problem like doing what I can to help out. But I would say more often than not, like I would actually say like I've rarely had someone come and ask me directly for money. Most friends have come and been like, hey, do you have a 20 or a job I can do? You know, and it's like, well, if you really only need $20, like here's $20. If you need more than that, then like, yeah, like I got a job, like, you know, like I got plenty of things we need to get done. Let's do that. Or like, what skill do you have? You know, like I did have a friend, like, you know, he was without his job, but then he was like, hey, like I need to pay my rent. It's like, okay, well, what skill do you have? Oh, you can do tarot readings. Like, okay, go hit up every single person on your Facebook and say, hey, I charge normally $80 to do a reading, but right now I'm doing it for $30 because I'm desperate to pay my rent. And like, would you like a reading? Hit every single person you know on Facebook. And, you know, I've said that advice to other clients before. This person's the only person that ever did it. And it's like, did he make tons of thousands of dollars? No. Did he pay his rent? Yes. It worked. Like, but it's that concept of like, if you're tenacious, but like very rarely do I see someone go, oh, I need this or I want this. I'll create whatever I can to get it, you know? And so there's the old joke too of like, every stoner out there is an engineer. If you give them some weed, like they'll find a way to create a pipe. Like,
yeah.
But at the same time, They're like, you know, like
I've seen some weird setups in India by the gurus.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I've had a roommate when I came home like, hey, how come the VHS doesn't work anymore? Oh no, man, I turned it into a pipe.
Ah.
You hit the eject button and it ejects the smoke into your mind. Like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, he didn't really say that, but it was like he did turn the VHS like VCR into a pipe,
God.
and you did have to breathe out like the big cartridge,
oh my
like, and you did light it at like the top little, like, yeah, it worked and it's
Wow.
great, and it's like, yeah, we were into DVDs anyways by then, like we didn't need the VHS, but
That's, yeah, humans are
Yeah,
genius.
but
That's
instead of calling his boss and going, hey, can I get an extra shift? Oh look, you made $40 extra. Go to the smoke shop,
You know, see,
buy a nice pipe.
now he just saved $40.
He just saved, yeah. So like, it's like, which way do you want to look at it? Like, it probably took him 3 hours to make that, or he could have gone to work for 3 hours and got Taco Bell and a new pipe.
That's
Uh,
true.
so
Gotta
it's-
go munchies with
my whole point of that is like what I'm saying is like it sounds like the fourth realm is like when we go into that disharmonic ego and we're like, okay, this is what I want. I'm gonna make it happen regardless, and just denial of all the intuition that would give us the same result but simpler. Or all the intuition that says that's a bad idea. That's not going to serve you.
It's a very masculine energy, that of the dwarfs.
Well, the toxic masculinity it sounds like, and that's the toxic egoic masculine. And I know, and at the same time, you can, which I said, you can use that energy
it
good
can
too.
be used in light.
So you can use it in the positive masculine too. Like, I'm going to get this done. You know, like this is my desire. I'm going to accomplish this goal. I'm going to quote unquote build this fence. So this fence is going to get built. Literally talking about, you know, if you want to build a fence in, you know, for your backyard or something like that.
You own a cattle ranch.
You want a cattle ranch, get on it, you know.
The fences never stop.
I just also think it's like one of the simplest things. Like, you know, if you want to feel really accomplished, you know, as a man, go build like a fence, and you'll feel pretty good. It's not hard.
Have you ever seen the movie The Ultimate Gift?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Go build a fence, and I was like, well, there's always
Yep,
fences
post.
on the ranch.
There's always fence on the ranch, but I'm not done yet. It's
It's
never
the worst,
done.
Never done.
That fence is never done.
Great movie. Have you seen
Yeah.
that one?
No.
We should. We should.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, yeah. Yeah. So okay. So yeah. So back to so
Next realm.
next one. So what's the fifth realm?
So Midgard.
Midgard. Okay.
And so that is Earth. That is here. What's more need to be explained about that? You've all experienced
Oh,
it.
here's one. You have to travel to Midgard to get to the other realms.
Oh yeah. So Midgard is also
Mm.
considered that twilight
Well,
spot.
I'm noticing here, Garth, your thing here
Mhm,
is the top-down view of Yggdrasil. So the center column there, that would be Midgard, and then you have to go through Midgard out to the other branches. Now,
Okay.
some of them may connect. Like, for example, you have two on each,
Mhm.
the Aesir and the Vanir.
Okay.
Or the Flame and Fire realms both do the same way.
These are the tunnels.
Exactly, and there's the tunnels that connect it all.
Ah,
It's
interesting.
even in your symbology, but it's a slice of the World Tree.
Oh, the
instead.
World Tree. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so you to go to the realms, you have to go to Midgard.
That's why we're
Okay,
Midgard.
Midgard. Gotcha. Well, but it makes sense. I mean, that's also
You're the fulcrum point of the rainbow bridge, and you even
Yeah.
have the rainbow colors.
that's in there. I mean, and that's the center of everything. Like, you know, and so like with this, like these are Icaros from Peru and so forth. Like each one has its own symbology, and like this is representing, you know, with grandmother and Bobensan and other things. But like the center is always Kuichi, which is the rainbow serpent, is the center of all things. It is the all, but also at the same time, it's like just that like quick fast version on that. It's like Kuichi was once Sachamama, which is the two-headed serpent that is here in the middle realm. And as it masters itself and goes around, and it's two-headed serpent because one mouth is biting its own tail,
Yes.
the overhouse. The other one is the one that guides and moves. And when it reaches around the entire mesa, around the entire all eight directions, and then ends up back at the center, it evolves into Kuichi, which becomes the two-headed masculine and feminine serpent, but it's also separate and together, and is the rainbow bridge, is the all, is the everything, but can't be the everything until it experiences the everything. So Sachamama knows all things and understands transmutation is important, but doesn't become Kuichi, the all, until it experiences the all.
That is fascinating parallel to Nordic culture because now this might be a little bit sideways here, but I know of two world snakes. One is Jormungandr, and then the other one is the one the Aborigines have underneath the Grand Mesa.
Mhm.
So that's the one that sounds similar to what has influenced South American culture, whereas Jormungandr was in the north.
Yeah.
Could that be accurate to say? Like, do you see what I mean? The parallels are there of a masculine and feminine serpents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the symbology of Jormungandr in Nordic mythology is that of what's the correct word? Sexual alchemy.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the actual work of creation.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
Which-
the serpent represents that unending recycle, that knowledge, bloodline, blessing, soul passed down through every single incarnation, every single lifetime.
Yeah.
And that sets up that whole idea of the serpent. It's many sections. They're all connected. They're all rings and spirals.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And it makes sense. Well, it's also reminding me of like the Kundalini, because that's what was just popping in my head with the Kundalini. But it's like, I mean, you even have this whole thing in like the Abrahamic faith and like with Moses and like the Old Testament and so forth, like raising the bronze serpent, like that symbol becomes the medical symbol later, but it's also actually like the original symbol than the actual bronze serpent. Like in the Hebrew Bible, when they talk about it, it's the bronze serpents. There's an S after serpent. And so there's two serpents on it, but also like in Kundalini, you have these two serpents that go up the spine, the masculine and feminine. And then just like in the earth has a Kundalini spirit and has a masculine and feminine that go throughout the whole planet as well. And it's actually like if you connect all the mountain ranges from like the Himalayas and the way it goes up and down and comes all the way down to the Andeans, like that's one of the snakes. I can't remember where the other one lays at in the earth and the way it lays out. Like because one hits all the chakra points of the earth and the other one hits the entire mountain range.
That's interesting.
Yeah, goes up. Yeah, it follows the Ring of Fire. I remember seeing that. The Ring of Fire goes across Tibet through the Middle East and then up through Asia Minor into Europe and crosses all of those.
Yeah, and it hits the highlands of Scotland and then comes into Greenland and comes down the Rockies.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so the Appalachians are actually like separate of it somehow. Like they're in there, but but they're like that could be like where the tail kicks back up, or maybe not. I can't remember. Like there's somehow the Appalachians connect, but people are like, maybe that's the one that doesn't count.
I wonder if that because one serpent's supposed to be eating its tail, and so one of them loops while the other one is going forward, right?
But it might be that's what it is. Yeah, I have to look at the pictures again to see. But but those both overlay, and when like the Eastern people came over to like South America and like to the shamans and the maestros there, and they showed pictures of the chakra system and of the Kundalini, they go, that's Kuichi. Like just right away, they're like, that's the all, that's the everything. And like the chakra symbols are like, oh, those are points within us. Like then, similar, they didn't have colors for them. Like that's a little bit more new age with the colors, but at the same time, it was like when chakra points were introduced, it was like, well, yeah, we have points within us. We have assemblage points. We have bowls within us. So I understand like these things overlaying, but so coming back to like, the snakes. And so like, we have here in Midgard, the middle realm where everything has to go through, which similarly in shamanism, when you do shamanic drumming or you travel to other higher realms or shamanic journeying, you're going to the higher realm or the lower realm or the middle realm. The middle realm is where we are already. You're just perceiving of it at a heightened awareness where you can see the things that already exist.
Yeah, I think we talked about this recently. If you had a shaman who taught you up, down, and then out.
And then out, yeah. And so, and like you have all around you, like that is where like things are, and like that is where also parasitical energies exist, is here in the middle realm. That's where like thought forms and both malevolent and malevolent exist.
Everything mixes together.
Yeah, but then even the upper realms, they have things that break down into them too, and the lower realms have things that break down into them. And the lower realm and the higher realm aren't separate from each other. It's just in shamanism, the upper realm would be more of like where you would have beings like your ancestors and more of like your extra dimensional, starseed family kind of would be there. And then like your animal guides and your other spirit guides that have more of a creature form would be in the lower realm. But at the same time, you could have extra dimensionals like aliens that have more of a creature form that are your spirit guides from the lower realm. It's just, different frequencies. But as we talk about the fifth realm, and also before we leave the dwarfs fully, is there anything our dwarf expert wants to say about dwarfs or the middle realm?
I'm short.
Well, not because you're short, just like you like metal and you got a lot of dwarf energy.
That's
and,
true.
He's got a beard. He's got a pointy hat.
I live underground.
He's very gnomey.
Make things with his hands.
Yeah. You do live underground. That's funny.
I do. I know.
What if I hit him with a hammer?
He has an underground apartment. He doesn't live in a hole in my backyard. That's not what we're saying. He has an underground apartment.
The doors. No, we've covered most of that. They tend to just show up everywhere, wherever they want to be. They're one of those forces. As I mentioned earlier, they're just the forces acting out their ego, as you mentioned, and that's why they're not judged nearly the same way as like the rest of the gods were during Ragnarok.
Yeah.
The purest act a dwarf can do is usually seen in the symbols that that Norwegian people or the Norwegian culture will utilize to like seal or to affix a finished work. And so what you'll see is a little image of a man with a beard and a pointy hat swinging a hammer. And that's literally like the dwarf's craftsmanship. This work, if I were to put that on a book that I made, it would symbolize that this work is worthy of my craftsmanship. This is my Rhine ring.
It's dwarven metal.
Dwarven metal, gotcha. I mean, you even see this a little bit in like DC Comics, a tiny bit with like Wonder Woman, and then like because Wonder Woman's whole thing is like it goes into like Greek mythology and so forth that you have, and I can't remember his name now. The guy that makes all the armors and the swords and like made her mother's armor and like
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus. Hephaestus
forges the thunderbolts for Zeus.
Yeah, and so like when he makes an armor for Ares, that like this creature, she knows that he made it because it's got his little symbol on it. And like, and when Ares comes to pick it up, Ares is all like, is it done? He's like, just adding the final beautification touches. And he's like, I don't care if it's beautiful. It doesn't have to be, I should destroy. And then you look and like the beautification touches are his name. Like it's his symbol is what he's adding. Like the beautification is him like, no, like I'm saying it's beautiful in what it's going to go do. Like what its purpose is it's going to go do its purpose. And doing its purpose is beautiful. And so like, even though we're saying like the dwarfs are ego, you know, they also have like the harmonic ego and the disharmonic ego in either way, because they're playing the role of that they're divine craftsmen. For better or worse, they're still, and for better or worse, to whom? To like what perspective? Because even that, it's like you can look at things and it's like that could be the worst thing or it could be the best thing. And like this isn't the best example, but for like a quick example, it's like rain, for example. Based on where you grew up, you either love rain or you don't really like it and it's annoying and it ruins your day, or you're very indifferent. Like people that grew up in Vegas, like and get rain only 2 or 3 times a year, they really love rain. Here in Utah, like during the summer, it's great to have rain. Now that we're coming into the wet season, we're getting rain and snow. Like today, it's snowing. Like I'm cool with it for now. Ask me in 5 months when it's still raining and snowing how I feel about it. Is the rain and snow bad? No. Is my perspective change? Yes. Like same as like the dwarves. It's like, you know, they're doing what they're nipped to do, whether it's good or bad. It's to what perspective and to who you play in the story. Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of interpersonability with the dwarves. It's very interesting when you do come across them.
Gotcha.
Because if they like you, like, dear God, you will get some of the coolest stuff out of them.
Gotcha. And that might be why like the Norsemen and the Vikings are very representative of that, because it is that style too. Like if they like you, like they'll give you stuff, they'll take care of you. They, and, you know, like
they had legendary blades too.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? What's that one that you can nearly bend in half, made out of crucible steel?
Sword, the Ulfbart.
The Ulfbart, yeah, okay. Stuff like that, where it just has no reason to be that cool, but it is.
It is. Or people of legend that did a cool thing, their weapon was deemed like important later. Like, even though, oh wow, I just lost her name. Lagatha. Like the shield of Lagatha is so important. Like it's a basic shield that just went through like 50 battles and hasn't broken. But then the first person that's like, I'm going to take the shield of Lagatha to battle because it's special. It breaks like the first battle. It's like, oh, because you use it like Lagatha. It's your fault. You're the yeah, gotcha. Yeah, stuff like that. Okay, yeah. And so in that same thing, it's like the Norsemen are Midgard. Technically, you know, they're the fifth realm, the middle realm, but they also are very like the dwarfs, where it's like if you're in your impeccability, you do your duty, which might also be like why so many Vikings and Norsemen, you have the recreation of themselves, but they recreate themselves whenever their passion changes. And whenever their passion changes, it's also like their new current goal. Like we can look at this like as a quick example is like you have Ragnar, farmer, and then becomes townsman, like leader of the town, like, you know, governor, mayor, and then becomes king, and then becomes was already a conqueror, but then like becomes a higher conqueror, and then becomes legend as he like, and then allows himself to be killed in a legendary way that causes one of the most legendary sieges to ever happen of London, of his sons coming after it, and it becomes this whatever.
Like significant.
Well, that's also
and you see this in other ones too that reinvent themselves when the story changes, and like just like quickly like the newer Viking show, and like spoilers, yes, but whatever. Like there's a point where one of the characters, like he's deemed to become king of Norway at some point, and then that's like denied him, and so then he has to become something else. So he tries to like raise an army, becomes a general, and then like that falls apart, and then so now he becomes a merchant. But each time he reinvents himself, and he's bouncing around from like he's in Norway, and then he goes to Denmark, and then he goes up to like northern area, and then eventually they end up in like France. But it's like each one of those places, when they hear his name, they know him as a different person, as a different, but it's like each time he reinvents himself, but it's like his divine purpose. It's like who you are is your purpose. So like what I'm getting with all of this is like with the Vikings, it seems like they're copying the dwarfs in a way of like the dwarfs have their purpose, and whatever a Viking says their destiny is now their purpose. And as long as they fulfill that, they're, you know, that whole thing. And this might tie into like Valhalla and like, you know, dying with like, you know, becoming a warrior, dying with a weapon in your hand and like dying a warrior's way. But also it's like if someone thought they were destined to become king of the Vikings, they were going to do everything they could, regardless of whether it's good or bad, to whoever, to become king of the Vikings.
If they are what they think they are, they are obligated to maximize it as what they are.
I'm going to go raid Paris and I was told the dead will inherit it, so I'll pretend to be dead, to be brought in with a coffin, but I'll pretend to get baptized first, so I have to have a Catholic burial.
They'll just set me on a boat.
So set me on a boat and light me on fire, so now I get buried like a Catholic, and now I come out of my coffin with all the weapons for all my, this that's off of Vikings. Did that really happen? I don't know. But it's off the History Channel. I'm sure there's a story that was close enough that they added the drama to make it better. But still that concept of, how am I going to do it? By any means necessary.
Yep.
I mean, Thor at one point even becomes a woman to try and steal back Mjolnir after the giants steal it. There's a whole
that's
story
hilarious.
with that. Him and Loki both. It's hilarious.
That's great. So yeah, going to whatever, so even the gods of the Norse, like, do what needs to be done. Okay. Anything else we need to say about the Middle Realm? We could talk about it forever because it's where we're at, and there's so many aspects of it. But
So the Sky Terror. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not getting into those.
Yeah, it seems like because it's the massive central bow of the entire tree that all of the gods, all of the good and bad, all of the primary forces in all of the stories, it seems like everything happens mostly on Midgard that
And
is
we're paying
worth
attention
mention- Yeah, that's worth mentioning that hasn't happened on Asgard. And so it's like things that happen here are important enough and big enough that even the gods need to pay attention. That's why Odin has his Odin sight fixed on Midgard.
Because if it hits us, it hits everyone.
It hits everything because
okay.
all the branches go up from that point, and all the roots go down from that point. And so it is the central.
The trunk.
The pillar, the trunk, the staircase, whatever you want to call it. And so the stairwell to heaven.
Great song. Anyways,
So after that we have what?
So
Midgard. Then.
So what's the sixth?
Five?
What's the sixth realm?
What are we on? 5 or 6?
What's above Midgard?
I don't have them numbered in the same way. I just have the branches of Yggdrasil.
Okay, so this is the trunk. So from here it goes off into branches.
Oh, we've already been
more.
discussing all the rest of the
So
branches.
there's 3 more, and so
Yeah.
that means we have
still have the
Vanaheim as Asgard.
Asgard, and then
Which
is it
Gimli.
Gimli?
Gimli,
Okay.
which
Right,
is
that's the realm
highest
of
one.
light. That's the one
Okay.
realm that doesn't.
So,
get
but
burned.
Midgard is like the trunk, and so like above Midgard it starts to kit into the branches.
It separates into the branches.
Okay.
So we went a little bit out of order, but yeah, you have Hel, Muspelheim are below Midgard.
That's the
and then
roots.
you have they're above the roots because the roots of Yggdrasil are something else. That's where like Nidhogg and all of the worms.
Okay.
Surface
Yeah.
are.
So Hell is the top part of the roots, like just where the roots begin.
Yeah, it's where if you're looking at a tree, it's where the tree is starting to go out into the ground.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah,
It's just
it's
the
the
lower
above ground
branches.
roots.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's Hel, and then above that, where it's starting to draw together, is Muspelheim.
Okay.
And then that long center portion of the tree before the branches, that's Midgard. And then that first branch out, that first point out, that's where you have that dwarf realm, and then all the other realms.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Where the
Okay.
peak of the tree, the very central point of the tree, that's Gimli.
Gotcha. So the dwarves are actually above Midgard. Okay.
A higher frequency.
A higher frequency.
The tunnels go through everything, but
Yeah.
remember that it's mountains and tunnels.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mountains are.
They're above the ground.
They're above the ground, and it depends on which belief. Like, honestly, like actually, I'm very curious. Like, I hear people talk this way about like the ground and plants and animals being like a lower frequency than us, and I don't know like where that really fully came from, because like when you really look at like any of the religions or any of the traditions or beliefs, again, the mountains are above Midgard, like they're above the middle realm. They have an energy that's worth being in. Just like if hollow earth is real, which like I won't go down that rabbit hole, but there's been a few things that lead me to believe that it is, and different experiences and things I've seen in visions and astral projections and so forth. But they are also would be a different frequency of the middle realm. But where the middle realm, to use New Age terminology or like the law of raw material, like we're in the 3rd dimension, but we're actually in the 4th dimension already. We're just not aware of it. So you can experience hollow beings or 4th dimensional beings, extra dimensional beings, UAPs, when you're tuned into the 4th dimension frequencies, which would be, that's what I'm kind of seeing, like the dwarfs are actually of this 4th dimension frequency. And it's like you can perceive of them, just like the elves, you could perceive of them, but they're off in a different realm.
They're busy doing their own thing.
Their own thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're in Norse mythology as well. We're typically not supposed to mess with most of them because there is a whole slew of other minor, not what do I call them? Spirits.
Okay.
Like the Norns, for example, are the 3 major ones that deal with mankind's fate, as well as the gods. But they have a whole hierarchy underneath that is mostly lost.
And something to remember too is beings from one realm are not supposed to necessarily go outside of their realm unless something major is going on, like the gods basically have ordained
There's
this.
a gigantic
That applies up with the gods too. The whole point of Odin bringing order to the realms was his father was going around the realms just adding the chaos by just bringing war in a war cycle of the Great Hunt over and over to every realm at a certain point. And so he went one last cycle of just setting everything to order, putting I guess you could say, rules and orders within each of the other realms so that they would stop messing with each other, and then went back to Asgard, and then all he does now is just police that order that he has set up.
Okay,
Even
gotcha.
if you look at his sons, as their adventures and their sagas go on, they start messing with other realms. That's why that dynamic of Odin having to come in and punish Thor even occurs, is because, hey, I separate these realms so that nobody be messing with them, and here you are, my own son, going and messing with them. What are you doing? I mean, yes, you have to learn the way I did, but at the same time, you're being a dick about it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, I see. Which is interesting because, like, with a lot of like what Pachamama is aiming to be, like what the Earth is aiming to be, like multiple traditions and New Age spirituality touch on this. The Earth itself is aiming to hit a new higher state of consciousness in a way that's not normally done in the universe, where the collective hits a new higher state of consciousness together. Usually it's parts of the collective, parts individual consciousness hits it, and then actually a whole part of the whole world like just doesn't ever actually hit it.
So this would be the prophet, was it Elijah who got taken up in the Mormon doctrine?
Well, I mean,
and his whole city.
him and his whole city, in the Christian doctrine, they got taken up in the city.
Okay.
But yeah, so like
Enoch.
So like similar to that, where like civilizations would be taken away.
But this time it's an attempt at the
entire consciousness. So like in, just use the term like Pachamama as we're calling Earth, but like also Gaia, like which is Gaia. We are all aspects of Gaia. We are connections of Gaia. In Indian, like in Quechuan, Pachamama refers to all of us. Mama Pacha is the earth itself, like the physical ground, the planet itself, the earth. So if all the plants were off of it, if all the ocean was off of it, and it was just the rock that exists, that's Mama Pacha. And then everything on top of that is Pachamama. So the rocks, the ocean, the plants, the us, we become Pachamama. So Pachamama, that's the reason I'm making that distinction, is because normally it would be that like Mama Pacha would have a group of them that would ascend, and then like that would be, and then another group would ascend, and then another group would ascend, and then eventually the whole planet would be a higher consciousness. But it would be a very slow process, and so actually Earth is doing it in a way that's like not normally done, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's the whole collective is going that way. And the reason I'm explaining this is so as Pachamama is shifting that way and wants to like go that direction, it's like that's our desire and our goal. And so like this comes into the realm of like the goal for Pachamama to ascend to a higher consciousness is the goal and the direction, and we are doing that in a certain way. But there's this thing in like New Age spirituality, it comes mostly from like Dolores Cannon and a few other people, and Alan Watts and Abraham Hicks talk about this, but like when America started shooting nukes into the atmosphere and shooting nukes at the moon to see what would happen and how things would go, we began to disrupt the other dimensions. And so the plan for us to evolve, a call went out that other souls had to come in, and other souls and higher beings needed to come into this masterclass. And we went from a planet trying to obtain a higher level of consciousness to a planet that's trying to obtain a higher level of consciousness that is now also a masterclass for other beings and spirits. And by them coming here and doing the masterclass, they help us in that goal. So the goal is still the same, the intention's the same, but by any means necessary. So again, like the dwarfs, by any means necessary. But that call, and this is where Dolores Cannon comes in. There's been several calls. So there was a call out in like the 40s, like right after World War II, there was a call, and a lot of them were actually found it so hard here in the masterclass that they suicided out.
I've heard about that as well. There were angels that incarnated and went, "Oh my God, what the hell?" Yeah,
and then the next realm is like the 60s, and that's when we get the Summer of Love, and the 70s, and so forth. And then there was kind of a pause, and then the next call came in the 90s. And then the 2000 kids, and like now the kids being born now is like another call. And it's like all that talk of like indigo children, rainbow children, crystal children.
These are the
blah blah. Yeah, these are all the calls, and none of the calls are different. Like an indigo child is not above a rainbow child, and a rainbow child isn't above a crystal child. It's just distinct the call.
Distinct generations or waves
of waves. Yeah. So the indigo children would be pretty much anyone born from like late 70s to I believe it's like early 90s, and then anyone born in like the 2000s is like the rainbow kids or the crystal kids, and then now the kids being born now are the rainbow children or whatever, something like that.
I think the indigo childs are the most recent ones that are about 10 to 12 years old, if I remember.
Other way around, indigo is older.
Indigo's older.
Yeah, so it goes indigo, then crystal, and then rainbow, or indigo, rainbow, then crystal. We're either rainbow, crystal, and it doesn't really fully matter. It doesn't
it doesn't really differentiate anything.
Yeah, just like if you have a star seed that's a Palladian and I have a star seed that's a gray, it doesn't make it me above you because I have a gray.
It depends on what you think of the grays.
Or which grays you're talking about.
Are they starless ones, or do they have a home?
Ooh.
Do they live in the void?
Anyways, not to go down that rabbit hole too much.
I know,
But yeah,
right?
but same to the
Just having
gods,
fun.
and that's so forth too. It's like those that work with maybe Thor, or they work with Odin aspects of themselves, or they work with Tyr. Somebody could view Tyr as this, or his other name known as Tyre sometimes. But Tyr, some people view him as like, oh, that's like a war god. That's very like victory is all that matters. That's not a vibration I want. That's a bad vibration. But victory isn't a bad vibration if you're
Fighting for the right thing.
well, fighting for the right things, or if you're into sports, or if you're into business. Like, I want victory in business. I want victory in my marriage. I want victory in my friendships. Like, so I've gone off on a tangent in a realm there. So tie it back a little bit to our tree here and like the realms. So like, the dwarf realm and the elf realms, like those would be like the first major branches. Like if you look at a tree, usually there's like the big fat branches that begin to go off before they get into the small realms. That's where they would.
They look almost like their own tree trunks from their
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. If you zoomed in enough, and then you zoom out, you're like, okay, there's the trunk, and then you go. Okay, so we got
That
those.
is a specific thing too. All the realms believe themselves to be the central pillar,
Mm,
but Midgard is the one that is named by Odin as the central
that's a
pillar.
cinder panel.
Because
Okay.
the rest look down and just see branch all the way down or trunk all the
Into
way down.
ground, yeah.
Gotcha.
So they
And then
they have their own tree and that they are Yggdrasil, but Odin, with his divine perspective, can see all of them, the whole tree.
Can see the whole
as
actual
far as he
tree.
knows.
Because there's
Gotcha.
a top and a trunk, where the trunk and then Gimli's the top.
Gotcha. And so really, the world tree or all the realms is actually just one giant aspen, because they're
You could say that,
aspen.
yeah.
It's
because they're all-
the yew tree.
they're like an organ. Aspens,
because aspens are all like every aspen is part of one tree.
Oh, okay, you meant that one. Yes.
Yeah. So that way, like they think they're their own tree.
I was going specific magic wood. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. No, which is good, but.
the one they make their bows from.
Yeah, no, not quite that. No, aspen is in that sense of like, yeah, that each aspen could be viewed as an individual tree, but it's actually part of one organism.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha, cool.
We're all
All
one.
right, so the next three realms, which I mean, I'm assuming are, well,
You
I'll let you
have
guys do them.
Vanaheim, which
Vanaheim.
is where the Valkyries
The Vanir.
and the good elves and the Vanir all exist up there. And in that place, it's considered a paradise for those who want eternal peace. It's nothing but gardens, fairies, birds. Like it's the most beautiful thing you can imagine. A veritable
The most
Eden.
mythical realm.
It's the
of.
magic,
Yeah.
magic paradise.
Okay.
In there, you have Folkvanger, which is the Valkyries and Freya's palace. And in that golden palace, you have the warriors who have decided to swear themselves to Freya and the Valkyries and say that when the final war comes, we'll defend this place.
Okay.
And so they have their own warriors and everything. People think that warriors only go to Valhalla. No, there is a peaceful place for warriors too. Both sides can be considered a hell, like Christian negative hell, depending on what your perspective on life and pleasure is. Like for a person who, I fought because I had to, I fought battles because I had to, your Valhalla is
It's not for you. That's
not for
just
you because
trauma.
It's just repeat trauma over and over. Why is this battle never ending? We're killing each other all different ways every single day. These are supposed to be my friends, blah, blah, blah. As opposed to Folkvanger, which is, okay, finally, I can take a breath. I can relax, peace. I know that one day a battle may come, but until then, I am chill.
You're chill. Yeah.
Now, both of those souls become Einherjar during the final. Einherjar?
That's what's okay.
See, does it change?
It doesn't change because the Einherjar are called by the Gallarhorn for the final battle.
Yes, but both of them, they come from both realms.
There's a caveat here, though. The Valkyries and the warriors of Folkvanger all answer the call and form their armies alongside the rest of the rest of the Asgardians. However, Freya herself swears off battle and does not come. She sequesters herself off in paradise because, get this, she has so much love for all of the beings in existence, she can't bear to go to that battle and watch them kill each other.
Interesting.
Much less participate. So she says, I can't, I love them all too much. I'll stay here, and that's it.
So she's the divine mother. She's going to watch all of her children eat each other.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
She's like, I won't even look at it. She just sequesters herself off. And so she's considered one of the only two deities to survive, but the only one who survived the whole thing, watched it all happen, technically, because she was there when the tree burned, but didn't participate in any of it. Where the other gods, they were one way or another participants.
But she was the observer. She watched it all. Okay.
Like
Gotcha.
What was it? Horrid captivation, like has to be.
Yeah.
It's one thing, like I won't even watch the battle, but when the house around you is burning down, I mean, you notice.
You notice. Well, you notice, yeah. Well, and so before we come back to Vanaheim, it also reminds me of kind of like the vibration of a mountain, actually. Like the love a mountain has to have to be like, I am going to sit here, be a mountain for thousands of years and just observe Earth and observe that you might carve into me, you might turn me into a quarry, you might build houses on me, there might be forest fires on me, there'll be life that grows on me and dies, like to just stand and witness. And like just use the Appalachian Mountains as an example. The Appalachian Mountains are older than the Rockies, but they're eroded. And so like, because they're shorter. And so like the amount of like love that the consciousness of a mountain has to have to go, I will sit here and watch the world until I no longer exist as a mountain, which is a very long time for a mountain to become flat. Like, especially if you're to use like the Rocky Mountains as an example, or the Himalayas that are actually still growing. They're still running into each other. Like
Those are really huge.
like I think the Rocky Mountains, like they said that like the ones here in Utah, like the Wasatch and the Uintas, they grow like an average, like, you know, amongst all of them, that's like 0.1 centimeter every year. So like Kings Point, that's like 13,000 feet, 998 feet in 2 decades will be 14,000 feet. It's just kind of funny to just be like, oh, they're still growing. They're so young. Such young mountains.
Somebody takes a giant stick up there and marks the height.
Yeah, marks the height. Yeah. So anyways, so Vanaheim, like how would I, if I was a Norseman and, you know, I'm in Midgard and I'm dying, or I want to go on a transcendental journey, how would I get to Vanaheim? Like how do I get to choose that over Valhalla?
So the Valkyries,
Valkyries.
the Valkyries come to take you away, right? You basically have the choice. It's either, and it's when in a Viking cosmos, when you die, you're literally not just sent off into the afterworld. You're standing with your body waiting. Right?
Okay.
And that's why the whole Valkyrie thing, that those that come for you, if the Valkyries don't come for you, somebody else comes for you, and that's a whole horrifying thing too. The
Well,
husband comes for you.
it can be goddess hell as well.
If you're one of the Forsaken.
If you're
all that
one of the
stuff too,
Forsaken.
exactly.
Okay. So like let's put this in the zone. You're only going to be moving up the tree. Like so you're at Midgard, you're going to be moving up the tree in some way. You're
We're still
waiting.
a lower vibration here in the
So
physical realm.
and so
Yeah.
you know that once you've died, okay, I'm either the guy who just wants nothing but more and more and more of this battle, or I'm the guy that just wants to put the axe down for a while, right? And so that's your inner soul says that. And for the Norse, you are what you are inside, and so all of that emanates out. So when
It's the way you've chosen to show up. As long as you've chosen to show up that way.
Exactly. That's why if you commit a crime and then they execute you, you go to the afterlife as that person who committed that crime. There's no, well, that was just me that day. I'm still me. No, you are now the criminal who was killed for being a criminal. That is you now, because that was the act that took you out of this life.
Gotcha.
So if you're a warrior who died in battle, you are a warrior in the afterlife too, because that's how you left this life, was in those moments of who you truly are in that final boom. We talked about before about how Vikings' entire life is about living through a moment worth living and worth retelling and worth being remembered. And so that culmination of their life is their final moments where it's me against death. What is it? What was the purpose? What was the goal of my life meaning? And if it was to be the greatest warrior, Valhalla.
Yeah.
If it was, well, war was just kind of thrust upon me, but I was really just trying to find peace, you'll go to Folkvanger instead.
Okay. So as an example of a criminal, like that's society deeming them as a criminal. But what if from their perspective, they don't view that they're being a criminal in any way?
Oh, they would still go to hell, but they would go to her palace where they would I don't want to say toil away, but it is a level of work to be done. Like I mentioned, Gurdjieff, the spiritual work to work out the bad, because they will have resentment. They will have things that they didn't work out and they didn't figure out because they were abruptly killed in line.
Gotcha. Well, and so I want to hear your answer. Just to add a little caveat on there, like, so not in the sense that like they did something that like Odin himself would deem bad, but something that only like that village or that society deems bad. So like as a example, like when I was a teenager, like I did magic mushrooms and I did not view them as illegal. And I would in no way think I was doing anything wrong in the world, period. Nor did I view that there was some god that thought that was wrong. But let's say society thinks it is. So if I would have died, let's say I would have had mushrooms, cop shows up or whatever, and for whatever reason goes gun trigger and shot me, and I die.
Crazy mushroom man.
Yeah, in that sense, society deems it's a crime. Do I die as a criminal, or do I die with my own consciousness saying that I did what was okay and what was right?
That is such a deep question.
You'd be dealing with the god Forseti.
Okay.
So Forseti is the god of, I'd say criminal justice, but court justice, court and law justice, both this life and the last. So, for example, if you as a criminal are brought before the chieftain, and whatever crime is being said against you, you murdered your neighbor for want of his possession or something.
Yeah.
The god Forseti is your karmic lawyer that will fight for you.
Gotcha.
So in the afterlife, for example, if you get shot doing mushrooms or something, in the eyes of the gods, you may be good, and it'd be Forseti who would point that out.
Gotcha.
The actual karmic law that says you were good to be doing what you were doing. It just happened that your journey ended there.
Gotcha. So, or
yes,
you'd be in hell for this. Okay, so
then they would decide.
So, like, and to make it more of like a Norse thing instead of like more of a modern thing. So it's like the Norse that, like, for whatever reason, is in that age of when there are Christian Vikings, and the village turns more Christian Viking, and you're still praying to Odin. and they come and kill you because you're not praying to Jesus, but you're praying to Odin, but hey, you're Viking still, like at that sense, it's like, would you be in hell to figure that out? And then in hell, could you move to Vanaheim? Or would it be, nope, you're still in the paradisal hell?
That's cool. So there are actually stories that are precedents for these things that answer these questions.
Okay.
And so this circumstance, there was one other warrior who experienced this, where he was killed wrongfully, even though he was the good guy, he was right, and he was only there at that moment trying to do the right thing. And then he was killed for it, and everyone still branded him as, you're bad. Why were you even here? He was allowed by Odin. So get this, he didn't send a Valkyrie, he didn't go himself. He sent his horse Sleipnir to him, gave him the power to resurrect himself, get on the horse, and then ride the Bifrost all the way to Valhalla on Sleipnir himself. So Odin sees that kind of a crime being perpetrated against an innocent person as one of the highest won battles, because that person stuck to who they were when they were killed. They're like, no, I know I'm right. I'm not going to forsake my life beliefs for you. Killed. Odin goes, that was the ultimate battle won.
Bring him to
Gotcha.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, I want him.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Well, and then
honor guard.
yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's not a free ticket to Valhalla. Now you're stuck there because maybe you're not a warrior that way. It's the fact that you are now not just one of his warriors. You're brought up to Asgardian. You're now one of them. You're like another god. You're a saint level being, where you can travel among the realms like the other Asgardians can.
Gotcha. Okay. So that makes sense. And so it has to be brought up in that way. And so like what I'm also hearing though is like, if your core belief, like what you believe to be a quote unquote impeccable Viking or impeccable man or woman needs to be, and you were living that way, but somehow you were killed by society's judgments or crimes or whatever, you could still go to Valhalla or Vanaheim or so forth, and possibly. Okay.
Because you were still good. And the ultimate above all of it, the ultimate judge is the one who has the all-sight, Odin, who's watching over everything. He still holds the ability to cast final judgment over all of the others.
Okay.
And so that's why he's able to, above the Valkyries, above Hel, above Forseti, he can just be like, no, he comes to me specifically. That guy gets all.
And so Odin is also like the final judge in essentially in all of this. Okay. So even if your own core belief of like what I believe to be a core good Viking, and this is how a Viking should be, and I believe I'm living in an impeccable way, fully, and for quote right or wrong, if it was against the way Odin views things, then you might still end up in hell. But also that's hard to say because like he's the all-seeing, so he also sees all perspectives.
Exactly. There's the fact that you are still the main character of your saga.
So you would have to be in denial of yourself in some way. You'd have to be knowing, like that false justification, that false, like in the example of, someone asking for money and all that stuff, but like we'll use an example of like just use the thief, a criminal, someone that goes and steals bread from a store and gets caught, but they're just trying to feed themselves and their family, versus standing on the corner and asking for $5, and then as soon as they get that first $5, they go buy bread.
There's the thing with this.
Because like, I know when I'm using this as an example, the person that steals the bread and thinks that's their only option to steal the bread is different than the person that knows they could get a job, they could go ask for money, they could, whatever, but then chooses to break the crime. That person would be, okay, you go to hell and you got to figure that out karmically, and there's still things to be worked out, but we're the one that's like, this is my one and only way. This is all I know. This is all my
brass and gold.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they use metals a lot to represent a lot of their gods.
Yeah.
Chemically speaking.
Yeah, in our last episode, we dive a lot into that. And so that's also something, we can dive into more too, is the metals and so forth. Okay, so coming back to the things, we're in Vanaheim, which is one of the higher realms. And just real fast, just to explain what Valkyries are, because now we're here with them, like what is a Valkyrie? How do you become a Valkyrie? Why the fuck do they matter?
So Valkyries, there's no becoming a Valkyrie.
They're not humans.
They are listed as being between 3 and I believe it was 16, but most poems decide that it is effectively 9 named Valkyries.
Okay, 9 named.
The rest are just, you don't know, it's not differentiated whether it's just the same group running around or if it's specifically an army of them. It's never differentiated. It's just said that these are the Valkyries that we name, or there are Valkyries present.
Gotcha.
Again, it falls kind of into that realm of there's a whole slew of spirits that sit with mankind. They're there when you're born. They're there when you die. They can be referred to as Valkyries, but the 9 named ones are specific in that they will show up to those that are dead. Okay. That's why we deal with them more, and the rest, unfortunately, have been lost.
Okay, so I mean, use that example just to like break this down a little bit more modern, but like, I mean, I get it, but also for metaphor wise, like the mountains, for example, we have the Wasatch Mountains. If you're going to stand here from your house and stare at the mountains, you can observe the Wasatch Mountains. That is the Valkyries. But if you were to go on an individual trail and that trail means something to you and you know the name of that trail, like Buffalo Point Trail, for example, that might be one of the named Valkyries. Or like we have Mount Tippanogus, which is one mountain that we name. It's part of the Wasatch Front, but Tippanogus would be one of the named Valkyries because it stands out, and so forth. So it's like, gotcha,
its
okay.
own force of nature,
Gotcha.
basically.
And so somebody might interact with a Valkyrie, but it doesn't get named in the stories, but that person might know the name, but it just never gets written. Okay, gotcha.
There's a lot that was lost, unfortunately.
Okay, gotcha.
A lot of the Catholics.
Okay. Yeah, well, I hear that, yeah. So that's from my understanding of like what it sounds like is, there's 9 named Valkyries, but then there are also Valkyries. There are 9 named mountains, but there are the entire Rockies and the Himalayas. Gotcha.
2 leaders among the Valkyries. You have, of course, Freya herself as of course, she leads the whole thing. She's the queen. So she's the de facto ruler of the Valkyries. You have the captain of the Valkyries. That's interesting because then there are 2 people that are named that serve as the actual captain. Depending on what Freya is doing, her other aspect as the maiden shows up. In that version, I think it was Frigga. She shows up as young Freya as captain of the Vikings and leads them instead, or of the Valkyries, as another Valkyrie.
I think that's switched. Freya is the maiden aspect. Frigg is the mother.
Okay.
Because Frigg is the one that marries Odin, and Freya's the one that tries to take his head.
The twin of Frey, the younger man with hair and beard. Yes, you're right.
And then Frey is also the brother of Frey. Yeah.
Okay.
So then you have that. There's also.
Did you get all that?
The other captain is Skuld, which is one of the 3 fates. She serves as when the queen isn't there or the maiden isn't there. This one, the crone fate shows up as a Valkyrie to lead them.
Which she's a fascinating crone to begin with. The other 2 are the Weavers of Fate, where she literally reads it and then tears it up so that no one else can.
Interesting. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And so the Valkyries' jobs, I mean, it's battle, it's so forth. I mean, what would be like their top 3 main duties? And obviously one of those is to go get souls to bring. Yes, that's one of their top.
Duty is souls of the dead. Their second duty is to maintain Folkvanger and all of the warriors and all of the people that live there with Freya. Their third duty is, and it is argued as to between the Voluspa and the Ida, which of these is most important. And I think it really comes down to who's affected by this job most. And so if you're a human in Midgard and you're a warrior, Valkyrie is most important because they will bring you to one of the other realms. That is the most important job. If you're in Paradise, the most important job is maintaining Paradise. But if you're in Valhalla, the most important job is they're serving me my mead and my meat after battle.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
And then are all important in their only duties. Depending on where you are, which one is most important.
Gotcha. Okay. And then Valkyries can be killed and destroyed, or no?
Valkyries, yes. So they are just like the Asgardians. They can be killed. They can be destroyed. The difference is, unlike the Asgardians, they specifically wear magical gold and silver armor that is considered impregnable even by the weapons of the Asgardians.
Okay.
And so they are just nearly untouchable. You think about it but they are still given the plumage of swans, and they're considered frail and beautiful like swans.
Okay.
So like a woman warrior, sure, she can still whip it and she could kill a lot of people, but if a blow from a huge dude still lands on her, it's going to shatter that poor woman because her bone and density structure, hell, just the armor she wears, it changes what she's allowed to wear, how she's allowed to protect herself, as opposed to a dude that can just pack it all on and swing a hammer.
So there's still a level of physicality between these gods.
Gotcha. Okay. So I mean, it's similarly to like to use the dimensions as an example, they would be like a high 6th dimensional being, because they can still be killed. They're not necessarily holding the structure of things. Like 7th dimension beings are like, their job is to hold the structure of things. 6th dimensional, like they have duties, they have purposes, they have impeccability. And so similar, like, depending on like which tradition you look at. So yeah, like 6th dimensional beings, but like then in like, there's swans and so forth. So like different native traditions like that would be like, the eagles, the condors, the higher birds, the ones that are in this realm of like, they have ferocity, they have a purpose, but same thing, when you pass away, the condor comes to you, the eagle comes to you based on, whether you're South or North American, indigenous culture. Other traditions have other birds and crows and so forth, which I mean, I know that plays into like with Odin, with the crows, but also like in like the Toltec traditions, like the crows are also kind of like a sign of like after someone's died, like that could be their soul leaving, could be a crow. A hawk could be someone's soul. A lot of souls after they pass, they get to spend some time as a hawk or an eagle before they fly rest of the way up to the full upper realm and either become an ancestor or a spirit guide or come back and play the whole game again. Okay, so just Valkyrie, I'm just like putting them in like a dimensional view for myself, like as they go up the tree, like that's just for me, but for anyone else that understands that, like they're a high 6th dimensional being. They'd be like a higher octave within the 6th dimension.
Yeah,
okay.
They serve specific purpose.
Purpose, but also they're higher up there. And like I said, whether it's they're pouring the mead for the 9th and 10th dimensional beings, or they're assisting the 5th, 4th, and 3rd dimensional beings, it just as equal as important. This is my duty. I'm happy to do. I'm great at what I do. I am awesome. I am a Valkyrie.
Good affirmations.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's the vibration of the Valkyrie. Okay, gotcha. Feroz. Okay, awesome. So so that's Vanaheim. So what's the other realms? You have Valhalla and
So Asgard. Valhalla is the hall within Asgard.
okay, so that's a hall within Asgard.
Hall.
Yeah.
So that's not a realm. That's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so Vanaheim is the realm, Folksvanger is the palace. So Asgard is the realm, and Valhalla is the palace.
Okay.
And so that's
Gotcha.
the way to break that down.
Okay. Is Asgard the like would be considered like the ninth realm, the highest realm, or
The second highest realm.
second highest? Okay, so yes, let's go to Asgard then. Yeah. So what
So
is
Asgard-
Asgard?
It's the realm of the Asgardians.
Yep, it's where they built, in Odin's name, they built a great hall to shelter from the weather, to and their enemies, and to party endlessly, and to just enjoy all of their divinity, all of their glory, their works, and their stories. In Odin, his whole job during the feast is to tell new stories because he has the Odin side. He's watching everything that they can't see. So he's telling new stories, especially stories of warriors that are about to enter Valhalla. That way, when they show up, everyone's like, "It's you!" And they go, "Hey, we just heard your story," and it's just a party just gets bigger.
Okay, gotcha.
And as far as a ranking structure outside of that, there is virtually no ranking structure in the party in Valhalla because you're all battle brothers partying and enjoying and swapping stories and just being cool because you know that you're going to split down the middle and go kill each other outside the next day, and that's all a part of the big game. It's like when you're kids, you go out and you roughhouse together. You know that you're not trying to kill each other. It's just practice because they all know Ragnarok is coming. They all have to be at their best for that.
Yeah.
It's a very masculine approach to it. But,
Okay.
yeah, the realm itself seems to always be on a war footing from what I can tell.
Mm.
Every
Always
so
preparing.
often they do get invaded, but it's just one of those things where even that is seen as practice because they know that when the certain signs that happened last time come again, that's when Ragnarok is coming. Until then, it's just another opportunity to go and show off.
Mm.
If Thor happens to not be there for that battle, well, then you get to be Thor that day. You get to be the legend that day.
Or
Gotcha.
tier.
Or tier.
I think that Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, I think he took a lot of inspiration for this for the Daggerland.
Okay.
From the Germanic and
Oh, yeah.
Nordic philosophies.
Yeah.
It's very similar to a lot of that.
Gotcha. Well, and that's like the thing. Maybe it should be. We'll put in like the little beginning thing here of like an understanding too of like even though we're using terms like Midgard and elves and dwarves, like we're referring to the Norse mythology that Tolkien used to create Lord of the Rings, to create that realm.
Yeah.
You know,
He updated he updated it into a brand new version for us, basically.
yeah, exactly. And
In an attempt to create a foundational story like the Vedas do in India.
And similar to like the Aragon series, like that's taking Tolkien's work and the Norse mythology and making another new thing, but that's why it has these similar representations and so forth. So like just to point that out, like as cool as like we could geek out on Lord of the Rings and like go down all that route, like that's not what we've been doing. Like
No,
this is Norse mythology. Yeah.
Nordic.
Yeah, this is where those stories come from and why they're so cool. And that's why even like Marvel's like, oh cool, we want to take a little piece of this. And
They actually do right with a lot of it and then somehow still so wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah. And I mean, and that's the hard thing too, is it's like you have legacy that gets passed on with these stories too from time to time. And what I mean by that is like you have the legacy of like the Norse mythology stories that were told, you know, and then eventually that fast forwards and then like, yeah, then you get Tolkien who's taking an example of it. But then even like Marvel, for example, it's like you have when the original comic books came out, then you have like the next
those were esoteric as hell.
and then you have like the next reboot of those comics, and about the same time you start getting cartoons with that too. And then you have this third wave that's like the movies, and now they've rebooted the comics, some of them.
Now everyone knows who Thor
yeah,
is, whereas
yeah.
20 years ago, no way in hell would
Yeah.
you hear my Christian
Everyone
mom
knows
talking about
who
that.
Thor is, but nobody understands what Thor is.
What Thor is. Yes.
Yes.
And unlock your inner Thor. So anything before we move into the highest realm, anything else we want to say about Asgard, like is, you know, that's important to point out.
A lot of the oldest stories with the Nords happened in Asgard. Asgard seems to experience. Apparently, the giants live in Asgard as well, and so there's the spot that Odin and his Asgardians all say this is our land, and then there's the outskirts where they're all allowed to live, and they are always having bump-ins and struggles with them, especially with Loki, being that he's always messing around with all that stuff too.
No, I actually had a question. Sorry.
No, well, go for your question first.
I was actually confused a little bit here because doing some research for this, I was looking at the different races of the giants, and I found 3, but I don't understand one of them. I understand the ice giants as well as the fire giants, which both come from their specific realms. But like Angrboda, she's not either of those. They're just giants.
They're
they're
giant.
Earth giants. So that's what that is. That's why.
So in the creation, the initial beginning, there was this great cow that was walking across the Ragnarok Earth, and there was nothing but ice and stone. Among the ice, it found that there was 3 giants trapped in the ice: a frost giant, a fire giant, and an earth giant trapped in stone. So the fire giant was laying like a corpse, frozen. And so she went up, saw it, and licked its face until it started to stir. Saw the other one in the eye, started to lick the ice to thaw it out. This one grabbed onto her horn, I believe, to drag along with it until he gained enough warmth and drank from its milk to get enough strength to finally stand up. The one in the ice was the frost giant king. Licked that until finally, or the first frost giant licked that until finally thawed out. And then when it grabbed onto her, it did the whole woke up from frozen death. It did this whole like lively reaction. It jumped on the cow. The cow was startled by that and kicked so hard it shattered the mountain, releasing the other giant who was actually Ymir.
Thank you.
And so that's the three giants: a frost giant, a fire giant, and an earth giant.
So that's why Ymir has all of that knowledge. He has the giant magic, which is the same as Thor, for example.
He was in the earth in a mountain from before that Ragnarok, where you have a giant who survived it somehow but was laying on the ground, and then another one frozen in the ice. Who knows if he was able to see anything happen.
Interesting.
I'll get more into those. There's actually, I think those show up in these Skyterra papers then, don't they? But that's a separate thing.
That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Gotcha. Okay, so the giants, awesome.
I just wanted that cleared up. Thank you so much.
No, I think that's great. When I say like Loki messing with the giants is also because he is half frost giant. Like, is that actual lore that he is actual half giant?
I know Thor is. Loki's different.
That gets into the thing that this is going to remind you a lot of Batman. Everyone who reads Batman comics, but there are 2 Lokis and 3 Odins. That's the thing to remember here, is that there's a whole lot going on here. And so this also plays into the whole Ragnarok recycle thing that happened as well, that may have happened before, is that you have these 3 giants. These 3 giants, though we know one is Ymir, the story, remember, there are regions to the Norwegian, the Gaelic, and the Celtics, and all their stories, though they're similar, there are regional differences. And I think those regional differences are based on when they got their stories, as opposed to when the apocalypse happened and when the Ragnarok happened to them. Because there's the story of these 3 giants, right? That same story in other areas, like for example in the Germanic areas, you'll find that same story is told not as the 3 giants that were dug up there, as in that they were giants, but that their names were the names of the 3 Odin brothers, which is Vili, Ve, and Odin. And so it's like, okay, what? You have those 3 there considered giants. We know that the Asgardians are giants, but they showed up as the 3 first beings walking around naming everything, and then they found the first 2 humans and gave them life. So, okay, that's one creation, but on another creation, they were stuck in rock, stone, and on the barren wasteland when a cow found them and got them out. But they're 3 giants who don't create Asgard, who don't create the others. It's just, in the other one, they're already there walking around creating everything. And so what I think happened was the original 3 were ancestral 3, that after a Ragnarok occurred, the next 3 came, whether they were reincarnated or they were descendants that took up the same names, or later generations just renamed them the same thing, not understanding the full cycle that happened with their story.
Okay.
Because the first 3 giants, they wander the earth, and they eventually have all these other giants, all these other kids that interact, and one of the last children they have, his name is Bor, which is the father of Odin, who's ransacking all the realms with the Great Hunt, with all of his brothers and sisters who are also giant savage gods.
Okay.
And so I think that's that connection there, as well as why we have 3 Odins. Well, then where do you get the 2 Lokis? Apparently, one of those 3 Odins becomes a Loki. And then after Ragnarok, one of those 2 survives, the other one disappears. And then when the other 2 descendants who take up the 3 kingship of the 3 main gods for the next recycle, you have Hodor, Hoenir, and Vilar? Let me check his name here.
Is that the wild one?
Vidar. I was 1 letter off. Vidar. Those 3 Vidar becomes Loki, and the other 2, Hoenir and Balder, become the next 2 Odins, one who sits on the throne and the other one who wanders as a hermit.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that's how that separates out.
And you look at the 3 other ones: a fire giant, Odin, who sits on the throne. Then you have an earth giant, Odin, who wanders the earth. Frost giant, Loki, and that's where Marvel got their idea. Okay, so that makes sense. At a different time, at a different point, I want to go down the story of Ymir and also see how that connects with Attack on Titan, because the Titans come back with like Ymir as like because of Ymir and the actual blood of Ymir is why the Eldorons actually turn into Titans when certain things, There's one time that does this where they summon a crystal tree, and I'm like, there's your Yggdrasil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, well, I want to go into that like a different time at some other point, just like how that got inspired by anime. Just like stories that were inspired by by Norse mythology. I had Tolkien in my head, and then that came out as Toltec. But Toltec is different shaman, different thing. That's Mexico, Central America stuff. Good stuff though. Yeah. Ymir and Attack on Titan would be interesting to go down. So before we move into the final realm, I guess that's where we're going. Is that final realm is like, so what is the final realm, and why does it matter?
The final realm is the only realm that survives Ragnarok, and I believe that's why it's considered so pure when the gods first discover it. And that's the key here: is the gods discover Gimli. They discover this golden realm, completely pure, with a house of gold already there. And they're like, well, that's interesting. But the gods, as soon as they find it, they say, this is the most pure place ever. We need to make sure that it stays pure. And so most of them don't even live there. They just visit once in a while to experience that golden glory before going back to Asgard.
It's like walking down the house. It's like walking around in the ashes of the house that you once lived in.
Gotcha.
From what I've heard, from what I've read, it's a very harrowing thing for the old gods to go there. That's why they don't live there.
They don't go there. So, but is it mostly like a? Is it mostly like a world of like ash and sand kind of thing, or no?
It's a realm of gold and beauty.
Okay.
The most purest, most golden, most like if Alfheim, if the other was considered paradise, this is like 100 times that paradise. This is actual heaven.
This is true paradise.
And so pure that the gods themselves understand that they can't tarry there too long because their own impurities, they are reminded of their impurities, they're reminded of their egos and their past deeds, and so they feel guilty and they have to leave. So instead they visit briefly and then go again. When Ragnarok occurs, they believe all the gods that are left and the children they're having are all like, oh, there's nothing left. It's all ash. It's all gray, black, wasteland as far as they can see. And they begin to journey to see where can we find anything that even resembles, right? And they find what's left of Mimir as well. And they go, well, that's nice and all, but we can't even do anything with that because even the head is gone, like it's gone. There's no use for this. So they start traveling up the tree. Every realm is burnt too until they finally reach a shimmer at the end of the tip. And they go, no way, there's something up there. They gather together and as one body, all of the new gods travel to Gimli. When they discover the golden realm is untouched by the fire or the clouds of smoke at all, and even the smell is still pure, they all weep and rejoice because this one place is the one place left in the cosmos for the pure and the virtuous. And they decide to leave it that way because they themselves are weighed down by their memories of before Ragnarok.
That's hilarious. And the reason it's so hilarious is, well, sorry, I laugh at you Norse gods.
Are you a Christian?
No, Christians fear the Norse. They don't laugh at the Norse.
That's for sure.
No. So the reason I said that was hilarious is because like it's super interesting and I'm like super into it. And like, but what I find it hilarious about it, like the reason that sparked that thing into me is because of like, again, just like how I'm seeing so much things got pulled from Norse. Like we know stories are and we know video games have been, but things like I wasn't tying the thing to of like I didn't realize like Ymir and Attack on Titan, like that's a train of thought. I knew Tolkien and Aragon came from Norse mythology, but also something you just point out there is so there's a video game out there called Dark Souls. And Dark Souls 1 through 4 like is in existence, and even though the second one isn't called Dark Souls,
one of the games of all time.
But like part of that too is like so there's a DLC for the third one, and it's called Rings of Airedale or something like that. Oh, yeah. But there's a lot of Norse mythology that shows up, and then the whole time like some of the guys you fight, you're like, okay, I could see. Like whole time I played that whole DLC, I was like, okay, I can see how some things like tie into this. But the final boss is you actually go to this realm of this girl. There's two, like you go fight a dragon, but then you go up to this realm and like you touch the egg and she says, when you do this, you'll return to the time of ashes. And when you go to the realm of ashes, you fast forward to where everything has been burnt again. Because whole Dark Souls is like the fire comes and it burns and then it goes away. And there's this whole cycle that goes on with it. And then the third one, you are the Ashened One. You're coming to relight the fire, to rekindle the fire. You're and the Lords of Ash have ascended. So essentially the gods have left their thrones. And you have to go find the gods and you actually kill the gods, take their ashes to go put into the star and start all again. The final boss you fight in Dark Souls 3 is the hero from Dark Souls 1 and 2. So you're the hero that goes through. So yeah, he completes the cycle. The fire comes and burns everything. He is the final survivor. And then when you kill him and defeat him, essentially the way the game works is based on how you showed up. There's a dark ending, there's a neutral ending, and then there's like a light ending, and then there's like a nothing happens ending. So there's different versions. I won't go down to all those, but if you choose the light ending where you've shown up like and didn't do any holification and didn't do any like weird dark killing NPCs that shouldn't have been killed, the light ending is it shows him like all the other hollows that are around and all the other things are bowing, and a light goes out and the fire is rekindled, and those that still have their soul or that haven't done anything holificationed actually get reborn. And it is and all of the Rings of Elendil turn back to how they were, and it's a city of gold. And the other ones come back into cities of silver, and they're essentially utopias are returned. And then in the game, you either can then choose to play the game again as a, when you start back over beginning of the game, but you keep your level, and the game is just harder. So it's it's usually like on PlayStation, it's playthrough plus, so it's 1+. Everything's 10% harder, but you have your same levels and so forth. But that would be the same as like, okay, you can start over again in the beginning of Ragnarok again, or go off to this highest realm, the highest realm of the things, and be in the gold and the glory and so forth. But the thing that is interesting about that, the reason that the final boss is the guy from the first two, is because after he's defeated everything, the storyline, because the storyline with Dark Souls is not very clear. Like, you have to read what the artifacts, like the sword comes from this. Well, not going to mystery, like it's laid out, but it's like, unless you talk to all the characters, the story doesn't play. But you don't have to talk to people. You can just go fight the bosses and just go through and fight boss after boss and like level up, and you can just full RPG and have a great time. But if you want more of the story, it's like you got to talk to some of the characters. You got to like actually listen to the dialogue of the bosses before they reveal things. And then like the main items, the items you get from the bosses, if you read like the lore on them, it connects the dots. So the reason all this up is that after he has done his thing, he wasn't exactly the best guy. And so he has his own guilt. So he never goes, they literally say, he never relights the fire out of his own guilt. And so the whole reason you come out as an Ashen One is because the Lords of Cinder have left their thrones, have gone mad, and are burning things and are acting in not the way they should. So like Yorn the Giant is no longer the peaceful giant. He's going around and he's smashing people and destroying buildings and destroying ruins that no one's even in the ruins. And so you have to go kill him, and so that's the thing. But essentially, because he won't light the fire due to his own guilt, the highest realm doesn't exist. And so you have to come and light the fires. What I'm saying is like, this just reminds me of the idea that the gods won't go to the highest realm because of their own guilt. The Lords of Cinder have left their throne because of their own guilt. And now they've gone mad, gone crazy, because they won't look at their own guilt.
They're denying their own selves.
They're denying their own selves, where they could go to the highest realm and actually do the personal work and have a great time up there. So even Odin doesn't do personal work. So do personal work and be better than Odin. Join Shift and Thrive.
You do your personal work instead of doing his own.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay,
you're all doing great down there.
So I know we haven't exactly got to go down to Ragnarok yet, and like that might be the next podcast episode we do, because when the dogs interrupted us, we were at like over an hour in already. Oh, wow. So I'm just saying that like, I don't know where we're at here, and I'm not trying to say we're forced for time, but just to keep subjects together. So with the final realm, the highest realm of the tree and so forth, is there anything else you guys want to say about that highest realm? And I can't remember the name right now. That's why I keep saying Gimli.
Gimli. It's the name of the dwarf from Lord of the Rings.
Gimli.
That's where the name comes from.
Oh, Gimli. Such a pure-hearted man.
All of those dwarfs are named in the Eddas.
Oh.
Yeah, all of them.
Interesting.
The entire companionship in The Hobbit. Thank you. All of those ones are named.
What a genius Tolkien is. Like, one, like just like the way he writes things and like thinks, but also like, I'm going to take this Norse mythology that no one knows really a lot about, and I'm going to create this entire world, entire story. And like, I'm sure he didn't do it in the way of like everyone's going to think I created it, but a lot of people think he did.
Yeah, to create a foundational text of Western, I don't even say theology, but almost unconscious psychology.
Yeah, it's
like
interesting.
It's the story that resounds in our soul.
As Jordan Peterson and Jung both say, like, humans experience the universe, our life and our reality through story and through the symbols in those stories. When you tell the story about how something happened to you in your childhood, your brain even constructs it like a bard would in the medieval times. That look at this epic story, look at these epic things, look at how I'm the main character, look how epic I am, look at how much I suffered. It's because we crave for these stories. It's how we understand the cosmos.
That's a very Western perspective, though, as well as we're the hero. That's the joke whenever I talk to a lot of Europeans is we came into World War II and World War I as both. We'll do it, but we're the hero.
We're the hero.
Like, it's a whole thing with us.
It's true. Well, and then it is also this thing, like, even, in a lot of the Western stories, like, we're the hero. And even sees a little bit, like, with a little bit of, like, the force you see with, like, some of, like, culture, like Japanese kids, or even more so with India. I'm more focused on like kids from India and so forth, like, where it's like, there is this level of like, you're not the hero of your story, but you're not the hero, so you might as well go be a doctor and a lawyer and have a great and awesome amazing life, because you're not the main character, but you might as well have a great life.
Yeah.
Like,
supporting cast doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah, they wouldn't say it that way. And I know that also this representation I have of Indian families from India is Hollywood based. So I'm going to say that too, like if you're actually from India, like this is what my understanding is from watching Hollywood and from comedians, which put it in the way of two of like, why would you want to be a comedian when you could go be a doctor and a lawyer? What do you mean you want to be on stage in front of millions of people? You could go be a doctor and save thousands and no one would ever know your name, but you would have a great and awesome life. Like that's from comedians, like essentially saying like how their parents view them being a comedian that's an Indian.
It's a different way of fulfilling their own karmic needs and wants.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And they're very aware of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I'm not saying like that we are the best either and that we're the hero. It's just we're the archetype that will name ourselves that and then go and do something, which there's a lot of that in the Norse too. That's Ragnar. You mentioned him.
Yeah. And also there's power in that.
The Norse reached so far too that it makes sense that Europe and now North America would have so much of their cultural viewpoint on the world makes sense. And we're very masculine cultures too. It's all about that impetus, that what can I go and do specifically? What can I put my name on? Well, how can I make myself immortal? Remembered by everybody. It's very, very Viking, and it's everywhere in the West. As soon as you move over to the Middle East, no, it changes to who are you? What are you doing for the group? What are you doing for the community? What are you doing for all of us? What is the little work that you are doing that helps the whole?
That's a huge thing in Eastern philosophy. Like in Japan, they have a whole philosophy on how to not only live your life in a happy manner, but to live your life and to be useful in society.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say, like, in a lot of the, like, South America and Central America and, indigenous culture, like most indigenous cultures here in the Americas, I should say North America too, it's like, it is that attitude in the indigenous cultures, like, how are you showing up as you, like, being your best impeccable warrior self, but also how does that influence the tribe? How does that influence the world? Like, so it is you and the community. And so I think that's the harmonic version of it. Like that is the version of a hero too, is like, if you're just a hero for the glory of it, it doesn't work out so well. And like, there's an anime I've been watching. It's called Sword Hero, or the Rise of the Shield. Sorry, the Rise of the Shield Hero. But the sword hero in there, and the spear hero in there, and the bow arrow hero in there. When they come into this world, they're deemed as heroes right away. They're actually pulled from our modern time to a past realm, and they're deemed heroes right away. And the shield hero kind of isn't, but makes a name for himself and becomes something. And the other ones, like as time goes on, they're almost viewed. They start out being looked up by society, and they become being looked down by society because they come in of like, I'm the hero. I'm all there ever is. You should worship me. And when they're not getting worshipped, they're like, why am I not being worshipped anymore? Where the shield hero is like, oh, you're not going to worship me? Then fine. I'm going to do my path. And even though he's doing his path and he won't admit it, it is also for the collective good. And it is also for the collective good of his tribe, his party. It goes from, his one party member to his two party members to then his village to then his entire lands he's caring about.
I love that series. It's so
good. So like I'm in season 3, so like but
you're ahead of me then.
Okay, it's good stuff. It's so good. It was one of those ones. Yeah, it was one of those ones I started watching just because I was like, oh, okay, I need a new anime to watch. We'll put this on, and it's like, and I'll admit, episode 1 halfway through, I stopped it. I was like, nope, not going to watch this. I'm done. I was like, I don't want to watch some guy that gets accused of shit he didn't do. That's messed up. And like literally 10 seconds later, like as soon as I was like, no, I don't want to watch this, I was like, actually, I want to see how this. What he does. I was like, I want to see how this plays out. I was like, if they still like, if it doesn't resolve in a way I'm okay with by the end of episode 2, then I'm done with the series. I was like, I should give it a 2-episode thing. It is an anime.
Yeah, you always at least 2
episodes. Yeah, but there's very few animes I've ever been like, no. Okay.
That ended up being that good. You're on season 3.
Yeah, like there's usually like, if I say no, it's usually because it's like, no, this is actually straight out. That's one thing I liked. I won't go down that rabbit hole. I was going to go down a rabbit hole about animes, but I won't. So
because like it's all about. We're all going to get shoveled a huge load of crap eventually in life, whether it's all at once or sprinkled throughout. It's in how you deal with that and move on and react and move into the world, because that's what Shield Hero and that's what a lot of the Viking sagas also tend to teach us. Is you can have something like what happened to Sigurd. He was chained. Him and all of his brothers were chained to a tree and devoured once every night by a bear. What did he do? He waited until the bear came to devour him, and he grabbed it by its tongue with his teeth, would not let go until it, ripping away so hard, shattered his chains, and then he strangled it to death with the last of his strength, and then ate the bear. So there is my situation where I could just lay here and die, or I can use the last of my strength to, when the moment comes, to just explode. Mm-hmm. And again, whether it's one moment or many moments, which most of us, it's many moments throughout the course of our lives. It's not one tremendous struggle and one tremendous victory. It's many, many, many over the course of our lives. And those victories and some of the losses would shape us, like Mjolnir forging a dwarf into something more useful. We'll say.
Yeah.
And so, which is its own story of itself. But you take the hammer, you forge the gold into the metal ring, and in doing so, you make something more pure and more righteous and more meaningful and useful out of yourself than would have otherwise ever existed.
Yeah.
And that is what I believe the Nordic culture is really, with all of their stories, trying to ingrain through apocalypse after apocalypse, or Ragnarok after Ragnarok. They're trying to get humanity to remember that through the symbols and the pictures of their runes and their stories and their lodestones.
Exactly. And that's how these like represent within ourselves. It's like, how are you showing up in your story? And like, are you doing it to be the hero? Are you doing it for recognition? You know, are you getting the cool things to wear the cool things, to have the, you know, like, as an example, like with plant medicine ceremonies, are you going down to do ayahuasca so you can say you've done ayahuasca 20 times? Look at how many notches are in my belt. I'm so enlightened. I'm enlightened. Or, yeah. Or are you doing it like, you know, I'm doing this for the work and I want to change. I want to be a better person. And you're focused on like, I'm going to show up a different way, you know, and it's not that you can't talk about your experiences or say whatever the number is or something like that. It's that same concept of the person that's like, oh yeah, I went to a Ram Dass meditation silent retreat for 10 days. So now let me tell you how to meditate, versus the guy that's like, well, I've practiced meditation a lot. Would you like to like learn some of the things I've learned? Like, here's one style I really enjoy. That's the guy I'm going to learn meditation from. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, same with like breathwork. I learned it from a guy that was like, you know, ripped at 50, and he's this bearded weird dude that's like totally like in the middle of like our first breathwork. He's like, sometimes you get snot stuck in your nose. You just gotta get it out, and goes and back to breathing. I was like, this is my teacher. This is the guy that's like, he's not like, hold on everyone, I need to go blow my nose. Which I mean is, I'm not saying like you have to be gross to become a teacher, but it was the idea of like, we're doing a thing, we're doing breath work, we're trying to get to a transcendental state. I'm not going to let mucus in my nose stop me, nor should you. So if you have mucus in your nose, deal with it, so you can without having to get up and end the vibration you're in. You know, it's like if you're playing a song and you start getting a headache or you start like leaning back, it's like, look, if you got to lean on the chair and play your violin, then lean on the chair and play your violin. Yeah. Like, do what you got to do to get it done. And that's not like a bad, like force past yourself, puke in and go to work anyways kind of vibe. Like I talked about like my dad was sharing with you the other day, you know, like he would go to work. He'd be the kind of guy that would like puke in his basket at his desk and like keep working. And it's like, don't always do that to yourself, because you're going to burn yourself out. Like, so there is like a balance to it.
Yeah, I used to live that way, and now I have an autoimmune.
Yeah. And so like, that's what I say, like there's a balance. Yeah. There's a balance of like live impeccably, but not toxically for yourself, is what I'm saying. So like the Viking way is like those that chose to show up in an impeccable way for that glory moment, or for those glorious moments. I'm going to die as a warrior with my sword in my hand, or I'm going to die as a XYZ with whatever, you know, my dwarf with a hammer in my hand way mattered more than, I hope everybody sees how awesome I'm being. I hope everybody sees how large my sword is. Do you see how sharp my axe is? Do you know how many heads I could chop with this? Do you know how much what I could do with this versus what have I done? So I think that's the sign of like what a lot of the Norse mythology teaches, and a lot of spirituality teaches too, but like Norse mythology, that main thing is like, speak about what you have done, not what you could do.
Yes.
There's a quote, now completely separate culture, but Gandhi has it, that it kind of reminds me a lot of the Nordic culture, but it's my commitment is to truth, not to consistency.
Awesome.
And as you mentioned earlier, they'll reforge themselves into something new, and that becomes their truth that they live until they die.
Yeah.
It's very, very Viking.
That made me think of Musashio with the Book of Five Rings, with the Ring of the Void, where there is only the void. There is no me. There is no sword. There is no opponent. There is no struggle for life. There is no struggle for death. There is only the void, and then that which is being done now. And so it's just the samurai version of be here now.
So those warrior cultures, they all have a very similar philosophy on it, because they all deal with the same thing. It's just death.
Death. Well, it's that death. It's the stoicness. It's the looking at death, knowing death is over your left shoulder at all times. And once you befriend it and you face a certain situation, you can turn and go, is this it? And death will go, I have not yet touched you. And then you go, okay, then I can go through this. I'm going to survive this. I'm going to make it through this. And it's like that vibration. And like, that's kind of that stoicness of like, they are so in tune with their own death. They may not know when it's going to happen, but they know how to check if this is the moment.
That's a very Odinic thing, because Odin dies once on the Tree of Yggdrasil, which is when he gets the runes. And then his second death is when he actually jumps into the mouth of, is it Fenris that kills him? And he goes smiling too. After talking to the fates, and the three fates that weave the fate of all of them is shredded in their hands. They can no longer read what's coming next.
What's coming next?
Okay. And then rides off in.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, it's that step then. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I think that's a good place. So this is the Nine Realms. And then next time we'll come back to Ragnarok, and now we have the Nine Realms to pull from, as well as like where their armies come from. So when we say Freya's army or we say someone else's army, like we know what realm it's at, and we reference that back. But yeah, so for me, this has been really fun. I like all the Norse stuff and how it ties into all the other spirituality. It breaks out into such great conversations.
So Norse is awesome.
Yeah. So for me, that's all I got. And drink more water, get more sunlight.
Live enlightened.
Love and peace.
Skål.
From the roads of Yggdrasil, where the Nords we fate, the Aesir and Vanir rise, their power innate. Odin's eye in the well, whistles price paid. Thor's hammer strikes, lightning forged in the fray. Loki's gives a shadow, his chaos unfolds. Fenrir's jaws snap, breaking all that holds. Freya's tears fall, gold for the slain in the halls of Valhalla. Warriors remain till the end of the ages. That's what I calls. Ragnarok awaits when the heavens fall. Thor, Odin, Freya, and Loki collide.